The podcast on Haunted Hill will contain spoilers and swearing.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Please help us, Michael. Be one of us.
I didn't tell you my name.
Hang up.
I didn't tell them my name.
They're all a part of it. They're all parts of it.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Hello and welcome to the podcast on Haunted Hill, episode 165. My name is Gav.
My name is Dan.
We welcome you, lovely listeners.
If you're a regular listener, welcome back.
And if it's your first time, welcome front.
And if you just pop in now and again, welcome sideways.
Or up and down, or inside out.
It's become our new catchphrase over the last 3 or 4 episodes, and we are embracing it.
Yeah, I'm getting Dan to start it off though, because I get confused. My brain can't.
We like to change things up a bit, don't we?
Are you alright?
I'm very well, thank you, my friend. It's spooky season. We're in October. Yeah, we're almost halfway through October.
Yeah, I'm watching horror all the time. I started watching past couple of days Ash vs Evil Dead season 1 again.
Yeah, good stuff.
Because sometimes I like to include my 31 as a season, and it has been the Flanagan ones like Midnight Mass and stuff like that. And but obviously there's not one out this year, so
No.
So it's first time in 2 or 3 years he hasn't done one. Yeah, 3 years, because it's a Hell House or whatever they're called, or the other ones. So doing that, which has been quite fun actually, because it's quite enjoyable. I remember that show being quite enjoyable until I think he goes to a mental asylum or a psychiatric ward or wherever it is, I think, or something. And I just remember being bored of it. So anyway, first season is quite fun though. Have you just been watching lots of horror and stuff? Have you?
I have indeed, yeah. I've been getting in the mood. Got some pumpkins around the house for the kids. It's great having a couple of 3-year-olds because they're really excited for it.
Yeah.
And it also ties nicely in with my son, who's potty training at the moment. So his reward is every day when he gets back from nursery, if he's got some stars on his potty chart, then he gets a Halloween tattoo. And as you can see from my arm every day, he's had Halloween tattoos. So me and him and Edith are covered in little tiny Halloween tattoos, which is fantastic. Not real ones, listeners, don't worry. I'm not sat there with a needle tattooing my 3-year-old son. They're really temporary. So that's exciting, and lots of Halloween sweets and junk food, and just getting really in the mood for it. And yes, I've been watching loads of horror. As I mentioned on our last episode, I'm going to be mainly watching Universal films, starting in the 30s. Finishing in the early 50s, but I'm also for the first time watching some Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes, so we'll talk more about that in a moment. Before we do, I know that everybody knows what we're doing, but Gav, it's a special episode. It's a patron pick. So it's a special Patrons Pick episode.
Yep.
And Holly Matthews is our patron, Queen patron with the crown on her head for the episode. She, being an Irish lady herself, has chosen a couple of Irish comedy horrors for us to have a crack at, as they say in Ireland.
Yep.
The wee crack. She has chosen Extraordinary.
In other words, the wee crack could be totally different, couldn't it?
Yeah, don't do the crack if you're in Bristol. Yes, we're going to be looking at Extraordinary, which originally came out on Netflix in the UK 2019. I remember when it came out and I was like, oh wow, I'll check that out, it looks great, and I did enjoy it, and she's chosen it, so that was my second watch for this episode. And she also chose one neither of us had seen, called The Boys from County Hell from 2020, which has led me down a dark vampiric rabbit hole of Irish fangs. We'll get more into that later. But so a couple of Irish comedy horrors, very different to British comedy horrors in some ways. There's a lot of heart and very sort of down-to-earthness about them. Not like your Shaun of the Dead, which is all a bit more cartoony. Do you know what I mean? But these are a bit more sort of almost real. You could feel like that it's a bit more down to earth. So I'm really excited to talk about these two films. And Holly and I have been chatting briefly, so I'll read out a few snippets of our conversation. She hasn't had time to send us, an essay or a long email, but that's absolutely fine. She's got a lot going on, and I hope everything gets sorted out for you soon, Holly. But yeah, so that's what we're doing on this episode. Bill Murray is here, excited. He's got some Irish vampire goodness for us to talk about in World of the Strange. But back to October. Gavin, yes, it's been an exciting start to the month. So I've watched 15 episodes now of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I've not seen a single one of them ever. I always assumed that the one where they become the Thompsons, which is Cape Fear, I always assumed that was a Treehouse of Horror. It's not. That's a whole episode, apparently.
Yeah. You think there's recently there was a whole It episode, and that's not Treehouse of Horror. They're just doing the whole It.
Yeah,
so
well, I'm going to watch that as well.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch that too. The It episode.
It's funny. You messaged me saying, "Oh, the black policeman, he's so funny," and it's just I'm just like, yeah, it's a part of my DNA. The stuff when you message me and say, "Oh, that was so funny," I'm just like, yeah, because it's been so ingrained in me, Simpsons, like most people who've watched it growing up. It's a part of them. So when you say stuff like that, I'm just like, yeah, because I'm just I still don't. My head doesn't understand that you don't know that world.
I mean, I do know the world, but I've only ever dipped in and out of it very briefly.
Not like this. So it's so funny when you message me, and I'm just like, yeah, he's hilarious. So, yeah.
I was into The Simpsons when it very first came out in the late 80s.
On the Tracy Ullman show.
I sort of, by the mid 90s, I wasn't really paying much attention to it really. But what's funny as well is when I've been messaging Gav, obviously saying, "Oh, this bit was good," and I like that joke and stuff like that. But he's like, "Yeah, I'm glad you're finally catching up on 20-year-old TV." I said, "No, mate, I'm finally catching up on 35-year-old TV."
Yeah, I realised that because I know that's long.
It is old, but yeah, no, I'm really enjoying them.
So when I was like 12, 13, I started watching them, and we had Sky TV, so on Sky One on a Sunday evening, you had a double bill at 6 o'clock.
See, we never had Sky at home.
So I was just on it, and I record them as well. So yeah, so
we had, it was on BBC Two eventually in the UK, like normally, and so I'd watch that and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air usually.
I remember it was really delayed because I had Sky, not being that, but because I had Sky, then you see the BBC Two ones, you're like, they're really old ones. You could tell because the animation goes better, as it does, and it gets more advanced and stuff. But you inspired me. So me and Charlie have been going through them as well because at Disney it's on the Halloween playlist. Yeah,
if you go to, it's brilliant that they've done it. So for anyone who doesn't know,
they always do. They have done it.
Yeah, well, I noticed it last year, which is what made me think I might do it. Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, on Disney Plus, if you go to their Halloween section
collection
for this year, for this time of year they do that, as do Netflix and a lot of streaming platforms. Within that, they have put. It's very clever, actually. They will suggest things for you. They will put, all zombie films in one category, all vampire films in one category, vampire TV shows in one category. Whatever you want to watch, you can find a way of watching it. They put all the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes into one playlist, so you can watch them just individually plucked out of each season. And they've done it even like if you go to cartoons, it will just pluck the Halloween specials from like Scooby-Doo, Justice League, whatever it is you're watching. It's really clever.
Not Scooby-Doo. That's not Disney.
Well, no, but as an example, like Marvel stuff.
Yes and no, because the Family Guy one, I was like, okay, cool, I'll put the Halloween special up. But one episode is a Scream something or other. It's not Halloween at all. It's about Quagmire's sister being in an abusive relationship, being beaten up by a boyfriend.
I don't think they've done really many Halloween episodes on Family Guy.
But you don't put that up just because it says Scream in the title. That's their AI just doing it.
That is their AI.
Well, that's perfect. Because I started watching it going, well yes, domestic abuse is horrific, but it's not.
It's not a Halloween.
It's not what I think. Oh, trick or treating this year. I'm going to go as a domestic abuse.
Hey Gav,
person,
what subgenre of horror are you into? I'm into the subgenre of domestic abuse.
Yeah. So I think they need to have at least someone curate it once it's been plucked by AI. But anyway.
Indeed.
But yeah, I've been watching stuff. I've been getting in bed watching Hammer movies. My list's all right. I'm kind of at the same date it is now with them. So I should make 31, I think. Been watching a lot of the Draculas that I've not seen since I had them on VHS as a teenager, and at the time was like whatever, because I think I felt the Hammers as a teenager when you started discovering newer horror coming in, the Scream and all sorts of stuff. Hammer was a bit like it's only in the past I'd say 20 years or so or whatever, and especially nowadays I'm more refined in my gentlemanly self that I find the Hammers just such a comfort blanket.
Yeah, they're great.
But going back and watching the Dracula ones, which I hadn't seen since then, and there's one where I was like, oh, actually, it's ages, really enjoyed it. Taste the Blood of Dracula, really enjoyed it. But actually have to taste the blood of Dracula, hence the name. I really enjoyed it. But then the next one on, Dracula's Risen from the Grave, I think, wasn't very good. And it's a bit like, oh, that's a shame, because it's weird that there's this up and down roller coaster of the Hammer Dracula films, like the Prince of Darkness, really good. Then you get another one that's not as good. So. Yeah, but I've been watching them.
That's what I love about the 31 Days of Halloween, 31 Days of Horror. For me, it's not about watching 31 films, because I always go way over that. It's more about the last few years filling in the blanks of things I haven't seen. So I did The Hammers 2 years ago, and there was quite a few I hadn't seen, especially towards the end.
Did you find that Dracula quality was a roller coaster?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
But was that the same with the Mummy films? I think last year I actually did a lot of the Hammer Mummy movies. Did you find that with them at all?
Yeah, the Frankensteins are the ones that probably...
sorry, Frankenstein, not Mummies.
Yeah, the Frankensteins are the ones that are probably a little bit stronger throughout.
Yeah.
Is as silly as they get towards the end, like Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, it's still actually quite enjoyable. It's more actiony, whereas the Dracula ones are a bit more slow. I'm doing the same, obviously, this year. I'm doing Universal, and there's quite a lot I've not seen, especially with the sequels. So I've already done a couple of the Dracula sequels. I've got to say, Dracula's Daughter was incredible.
Oh, I didn't really like it.
Son of Frankenstein was incredible.
I think that's all right.
The Invisible Man Returns. That was Vincent Price's first film, and that was really good. I've only watched it so far. I've seen 17 Universal films, and there's only been about 2 or 3 that were a bit like, meh.
I remember Jack's Daughter. I found it quite boring.
But I do know
it had lesbian tones to it, didn't it? It was very early lesbian tones. It was very, it was very ahead of its time, really. But
I know that the quality is going to drop off, though, because at the moment I've gone through all the 30s and I'm almost into the mid 40s now, and I know once we hit the late 40s, early 50s, apart from The Creature from the Black Lagoon, there aren't going to be many strong ones. But I'm still excited to watch all the sequels, all the Invisible Man sequels. I've just never seen most of these, so I've seen most of the Frankenstein ones and the Dracula ones, but there's quite a lot. The Mummy ones get a bit boring as well.
Yeah, I last year actually picked up the Wolfman Legacy DVD collection of Universal, so it's all the Wolfman films, and unfortunately a couple of them are just not brilliant,
I watched Lon Chaney Jr.'s first film today with Universal, which was called Man-Made Monster. It's only an hour long, and he made it the same year as he made Wolfman because it did so well. And it's about a man who gets electrically charged and he starts glowing and he can electrocute you by touching you. But at the end, it becomes too much for him, Gav. He gets caught on some barbed wire and he just goes, guys. But it's just all right. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I've already done about 35 if you include the episodes of The Simpsons. So I'm not really worried about the numbers. It's more about just getting through my lists, really.
Yeah.
Exciting though, and we do love Halloween. Thank you all to everybody for posting up what you're watching. It looks like you're all having a lot of fun as we plough through the month. And like me and Gav, certainly me, but Gav, hopefully you, we always try and save our favourites or the best till the last day. So
I will mention. So let me see. I've done 11, so I'll say some standouts very quickly.
Yeah, please do.
I quite enjoyed watching again the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, it's great. The original.
Yeah, only 74 minutes, that movie. If you take if you ignore the credits, because I was watching because I'm just finishing up a Deadbolt's new found footage film, so I was just kind of watching that. I really enjoyed watching Kill List again.
Yeah, we covered that, didn't we?
Yeah. That was really good. And yeah, I quite enjoyed watching Identity last night.
I know you're a big fan of that one. It sounds like you've been having a fun month because you're not putting the pressure on yourself and you're just watching stuff that you know you like.
Yeah, because
easy to watch.
Like my second one was Hell House 4, Hell House LLC 4,
which I
and that
haven't
wasn't really planned. I was just like, well, I want to watch some found footage movies because I'm in the throes of making found footage. So I'm towards the end of it, so I'm just checking out other films, the dynamics, how they work. Yeah, so I watched that one actually. Now, as I was watching it, I realised I had actually already seen it when it first came out. It's better than the third one. It's that third one. I remember that ending being ridiculous, but this one's totally different people going there, and it's not too bad.
The ending of the third one really ruined it.
Ridiculous, wasn't it? Yeah.
But
the fourth one actually kind of pulls it back. It's kind of like the Paranormal Activity movies, you know, except I like most of those films. But yeah, that's it. I'm not going to go for all of them.
No. I mean, I'll do a couple of quick standouts from what I've seen so far, stuff that surprised me and stuff that everybody probably knows is really good. I mean, Bride of Frankenstein is still my absolute favourite Universal horror film. It's just so emotional and amazing and beautiful, and I'm a big fan of Frankenstein. And Frankenstein itself, the first Frankenstein movie, is probably in my top 3 as well. So 2 Frankenstein movies in my top 3. But the other one that I know we covered it a while back, not that far ago, The Invisible Man is just so ahead of its time, and the effects are still incredible now. And he's so deranged, the Invisible Man, that it's just... It's a joy to watch.
That first film was really good because we covered it, and I remember really enjoying it, covering it as a reviewer, because you really got to go, fucking hell, this guy is loopy. He's a criminally insane person.
But other movies, there's 2 that I hadn't seen before. Island of Lost Souls, which is the original Dr. Moreau story, that was really, really, I cannot believe, well, it did get banned, and it was just, it's really dark, man, what they're doing to these people. And that was 1932, but that blew my mind, that was so good. And the other first time watch that I've already mentioned Son of Dracula and Dracula's Daughter, but the other first time watch that I really, really enjoyed was The Raven. Didn't expect that to be as good as it was, and there was it was almost, well, it kind of was banned. It wasn't released for about 20 years in a lot of countries after it came out, because it involves so much torture and just a deranged man just killing people for the sake of it. Bela Lugosi is just brilliant in almost everything he's in, isn't he, really? Bela Lugosi is great. Like with Hammer, you know, you've got your Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing and other people that you know you're going to get in your Hammer film. It's the same with Universal. You know you're going to get your Lon Chaney's Juniors, you're going to get your Bela Lugosi's, your Boris Karloff's. You love seeing them playing these different monsters and characters, and it's just, it's fun. I'm really enjoying it, and I recommend doing it one year if you can be bothered. It's fantastic, although I know you've seen a lot of them, but it's just a lot of fun, Mum.
I do like to just watch other Halloween-y things as well. So actually came on Prime, which is not bad, which Mark Gatiss made for BBC Two a few years ago. Free 1 hour shows.
Like a documentary.
One like got Hammer, and then one about Universal, and then like one with folk horror, and going sort of into them and just stuff. They're on Amazon actually, so I watched a couple of those, just keeping me in the horror thing. And also I found a YouTube channel. Would give it a shout out. Can't remember what it's called. Cobwebs channel, I think it's called. Pretty cool. It's just a guy who's got a ridiculous. It's an American guy who's got a ridiculously huge like film collection just behind him. And he's got loads of like things like the 10 best witch movies, and he's just pulling it all out, going da da da. So, as a nerd, as a collector, I'm quite happy. Like, I'll subscribe, you know. So that's quite good. So I've just been doing that stuff as well, because I like to just absorb all the horror around me.
Yeah, those Mark Gatiss is a great.
Yeah, they're fun.
I did enjoy those. I wanted more of them, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, the same here. My kids are. I'm giving them pumpkins and Frankensteins and werewolf toys. You know, I can't resist it really. Almost every 2 or 3 days on my way to pick them up from nursery school, I end up popping in the shop to get a loaf of bread, and I spot like a key ring, and I'm like, well, Jack would like that werewolf key ring and Edith would like that zombie key ring, and they do, and they're really into it. So whether that's weird or not, I don't know. But
not really. Buy stuff for your kids, and your kids bit free being into pretty much anything isn't weird either. It was nice to see your children.
Yes. So the other exciting thing that's happened recently is that I had a visit from Gav in the flesh. That was so lovely. So Gav came to Bristol for the day, and
I had a rare moment of not working, not with the children, not spending time with Sarah. I was literally a Sunday with nothing to do, and I had movies and a Blu-ray player. excuse me, to give
did, yeah.
Dan, and I'm moving, and I can't keep moving bloody stuff for Dan from house to house. So it's like, right, what you doing?
You also gave my children loads of books, which they loved as well. And yeah, we had a great time. We went for lunch, then we went to the park. Just had fun, chilled out. Really, it was nice to not be with you. It was nice to be with you and not just have to record or talk about the show for once.
It was only a few hours, but we just chilled, and I popped home again. It's like 100 miles, but I popped over. But it was good to just pop down and say hello to you guys and have a cup of tea and just chill out. So yes.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And the only other film I wanted to mention before we get into chatting about Holly and the patron picks is I don't know if you've seen it, Troll from 2022 on it's on Netflix. It's
no, I didn't see it. Scandinavian.
Yeah, it's not. I believe Norwegian. It's it feels like a sequel to Troll Hunter, and it's kind of exactly like that, but not found footage, and it's about this, a troll. Basically, and they're hunting it down, and the government and it's great, fantastic effects. I really recommend it. It's really good. It's just called Troll, and it's got subtitles because it's Norwegian, I believe. Oslo. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's great movie about a big giant troll destroying parts of Norway, and it's very similar to Troll Hunter, so you'll feel like you've seen it before, but it does still feel original.
Okay, that's cool.
It's weird that there's another troll, because it's that whole kind of like, we're not supposed to turn on anyone, but these trolls exist for real. The legends you've heard are real. So it's kind of doing that whole thing again. But I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. So just wanted to mention that one that I'd watched as well.
I did also go to very quickly. Went to a comic convention locally, which was really weird. All of a sudden, like very badly advertised. All of a sudden, it's like, it's a comic convention this weekend. I wonder if the kids want to go along. And went there, and loads of actors of people you knew and stuff like that, but like no one. I'm just sitting there all alone. No one visiting them because it's really badly advertised. But I tell you what, I saw an incredible costume. See that Slimer hot dog costume?
I did see it. Yeah.
It's a person in a wheelchair puts on basically. They must open up the back. They slip into their wheelchair, put their head in their arms into Slimer, and they go around with an ice cream cart as Slimer. It's like it's a wheelchair. It's so good, so good.
So it's like the scene where Slimer's
I didn't speak to them. Yeah.
It's like the scene, where Slimer's on the food trolley then.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I got a selfie with it. I'm happy. I'm happy to say I don't think the person was in there when I did. Otherwise, I could totally ignore them and just got a selfie because I thought it was just a prop thing. Also, just very quickly, Deadbolt Films, just if you're into your found footage, we've just been finishing up a movie and going to name check it because it's actually starting to turn out all right. So I will promote it. It's a movie called Amanda, and that's going to be, I don't know when it's coming out because we're not sure how we're going to distribute it yet. We've got plans possibly and choices. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Did you like that ending that I shot without spoiling it for the audience?
I did, yeah, I really did, because obviously I've been in on this from the beginning, so I've seen this grow from a differently named
totally different
project.
films. It was actually originally, I thought this the other day, originally I came up with the idea for me and you to be in it, and it's about us as podcasters, and I go to Stonehenge and just a whole thing happens, and I wrote a whole script for it, and it's quite good, and it's turned into this, which is so weird. Sorry, Karen.
No, that was it, really. That was what I was going to say. So it started off as a different name in segments.
But we went out to the woods and we shot the ending. I kind of come up for the ending, and it came out like 10 minutes, and I edited it and put it together. I was like, fucking hell, that's really fucking good. It's actually really strong ending, which is nice to have. Sometimes it's quite hard making films to make sure you've got a good strong ending. And I was like, fucking hell, that's pretty good. Quite intense.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm very excited for people to see it.
Yeah. Had night vision goggles. All I say is night vision goggles and blank firing guns in the woods with people attacking.
Someone who was firing blanks?
Whatever. Anyway.
And black slime.
and Black Slime and me retching because it was unfortunately I'm in it,
And
but
you're retching.
I've been trying to put myself on the other side of the camera as much as I can. But we got two more scenes to go, then one more scene where I'm hoping a certain horror movie actor who's been in a very loved horror movie is going to play a demonologist for me, but I'm not going to say just in case it isn't. But yes, looking forward to getting that finished and out. But it's actually a little bit of a bit of a test for those night vision goggles for another film we're going to be making soon, which is kind of going to be like The Raid. It's another found footage film, just because we can, for what we've got. But I've thought about it. It's going to be like The Raid, but as a horror movie.
I've always wanted to see a found footage, because I know it's been done with Hardcore Harry, but like a found footage
but
sort
horror.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Without the martial arts, but The Raid's going to be a lot of tactical fucking that stuff with point of views and things. The next movie we're doing, and that's going to be really good.
Someone needs to do a really good found footage werewolf movie.
I know, and I want to do one. And the next film we're doing, I said, can it be a werewolf? And we're like, we don't think we've got time to make a good enough costume, so it's probably going to be zombies. I was like, oh. Otherwise it could work.
I'll grow my beard a bit longer.
It could work, the setup, what's happening, but I think it's going to be zombies for this one. But I've never done a zombie picture. So yeah.
Cool beans.
Anyway,
well,
shall
that's
we?
the news. That's the October stuff. Let me just chat about Holly briefly then. So as I've said, she didn't have time to send in anything, but we have been chatting over the last couple of weeks. So one of these movies, The Boys from County Hell, is about a real life legend, Irish legend vampire,
I didn't know it was a real life one.
Yeah, so I'll go into that's going to be our World of the Strange segment. I'm actually going to go into that folklore a lot more. In fact, there's a couple of Irish vampires which I knew nothing about, so thank you again to Holly for highlighting this. But it all revolves around a pile of stones, which is a grave. And actually, Holly sent me some pictures, which I'll post up on the Facebook page after recording, of the grave, because it's very close to where she is, and she's been there a couple of times.
So I see, I almost wanted to know that before I watched the movie, but you don't. You're going to watch movies as it is. Sorry, I'll let you carry on talking. But I love the fact that when you're coming up with ideas of films, if you're local or whatever, you just come up with things around you. I love the fact that they were like, well, what's that stones and that whole thing, and then just make a movie around it.
Yeah. It's all based on a real life legend, but I won't go into it now. She also says a couple of funny things, like just want to let you know that what everybody in these two films is like is really what we are all like over here, meaning Ireland. So she said, see them as a documentary if you want. So, I mean, brilliant. I love that. Absolutely love that. And she also said a really lovely thing. She said, I'm just scrolling down to it. She said, you guys do good work, meaning the podcast, and lots of people, including myself, do love the podcast. It's a real testament to you both that as many people tune in as they do. I love your stuff so much. Thank you so much for I sent her a DVD, and she also says, I'm hoping I've redeemed myself for these two films after Razorblade Smile, which we covered last time. It was her Patreon pit. So Razorblade Smile is a low budget British sort of Matrix wannabe vampire.
At the same time, I as when we did it, I was like, I kind of know where Holly's coming from when she got into this when she's younger. I said, you can go back and listen to the episode, but I understood it.
And Holly, thank you for sending me all the links to those documentaries on those vampires as well. I really enjoyed watching all those, and in fact, they sent me down a rabbit hole, and I watched loads more stuff. So. And
Holly, thank you for listening, and I'm glad that you like it, or other people that like it. The show, it's nice to know that. And thanks for your support with the Patreon and every other patron we have. Thank you for your support, and as a listener, general listener, thank you for support for just. Being put into your head for a couple
into your
of hours,
ear holes,
for 3 or 4 hours,
slipping in your oral holes. Well, on that note, shall we have a little trailer for Extra Space Ordinary?
I know. I was trying to find out. I can't find this movie. That's
in
why.
fact, they kind of say that during the film, don't they? It's like, you spelt it wrong.
Yes.
It's all one word.
Yeah.
But anyway, Extra Space Ordinary from 2019. We'll be back after the trailer.
Why don't we see ghosts every day?
Leave me alone.
Most hauntings are so small, they go unnoticed.
Hi, this is Rose's driving school.
Maybe you could have a chat with my daughter, just to find out what's up with her. My name is Martin.
Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Martin, she's floating. She's floating, Martin.
No.
What is evil?
Coming, my sweet. I'm doing an incantation.
Now!
Hear me, powers of the night. The blood moon is nigh.
This bloody moon better make me bloody rich.
This is a satanic ritual.
Satanists?
I woke up in the morning.
To break the spell, we need ectoplasm. You just have to let the ghost inhabit your body.
Like in Ghostbusters.
Oh, I haven't read that.
The plot thickens.
Why does it have to be so unnecessarily gross?
Black magic.
Aha! Your girl's got something.
Prick.
This is over. Martin! Hello, little ghost lady.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were dead. Oh, my goodness.
Coming soon.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. It's not twice. I said it twice. 2019, rated 15, an hour and 34 minutes. Rose, a mostly sweet and lovely Irish driving instructor, must use her supernatural talents to save the daughter of Martin, also mostly sweet and lonely, from a washed-up rock star who's using her in a satanic pact to reignite his fame. I thought I was going to say flame, because that would be, it's like reignite his flame, reignite his fame. That's the plot.
Two directors, Mike Ahern and Enda Loughman.
Oh, really?
A lot of people compare this to Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and it does feel at times a bit like that. I get that, definitely. In just sort of normal people thinking they're better than they are, or being, I think, more of the rock star in this than anything. But this was my second time watching it. How about you? Have you seen this before?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. I think Sarah and I liked it. Because I've got an issue with this film, which I'm just going to say in a moment. What I like about this film is the production. Now, when I say production and when I say produced, obviously a lot of you listeners are going to understand in the snows, but if not, I'm just going to explain. When I say a film I think is really well produced, you got every department is well made, well managed, well done. It's been chosen well, and they've delivered, and everyone's signed off and gone, that's all fucking great, bring it all together, boom. And I think this is very well produced film. Everything in this film is great. The casting, the look, the plot, the idea,
the score,
everything in it is good.
And the soundtrack, the songs used are great as well.
My only issue, I think, I was trying to figure out, I was like, is it the editing? It's not the editing, it's the script. I don't feel that the and yes, you don't have to follow scripts completely in the structure. This is a second act, and this is but I feel like this hasn't been telegraphed enough. Yes, we know who our protagonist is, as in Rose. Yes, the antagonist is, I guess, is going to be the rock star, and her quest and her journey is going. The thing that her powers that she didn't want, she's at the end going to use those powers for good. I understand all that, but I feel it's really kind of done in a sort of fog-like way. It just kind of keeps going and going. This is only my opinion, though, and I think it's probably because I'm a filmmaker. I always have these, and I see these things just because. But I just, I found after a while, I was like, oh, is it still going? It kind of, and I thought, it must be edited. It's not tight enough. And it's not that. I feel that the story isn't tight enough, but it's not a story. It's just the way the beats are. There's something in it. I just felt it. Just after a while, I was a bit like, come on, get to it. But I was loving it all. That's the problem. I had a real back and forth with it, you know.
I think this is one that will be a grower, and I think I got a lot more out of it this time around. And I think I probably would revisit this several more times in the future. Not like every year, but every few years I might come across this and watch it again. And I do think it's growing a bit of a cult status, apparently. And obviously it's only been out for 5 years, but it's definitely very clever, very different. And it does, yes, it has like that sort of Shaun of the Dead, you know, non-American kind of way about it, very normal people in a weird situation, but also it's got some very clever nods to the horror genre in it as well. There's an Exorcist moment, there's some Ghostbusters references. It's made with love.
It's absolutely made with love. Everybody in there is made with love. But going to like Shaun of the Dead, definitely not as tight as Shaun of the Dead. That's a tight film. But I know you're not comparing. Oh, you're saying other people sort of say like that. But I do like it. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it several times. I might watch it again. I don't know. And that's my issue. Just because of that, I just went, maybe the next time I watch it, I go, actually, what was I talking about? It's fine. I might even do that.
This is a film that would benefit from being back on Netflix because it's gone now. But if it was on streaming, people would be like, you know, it would be like in the top 10 or something again. So there's two, before we get into the deep dive of this film, there's two plots essentially, just to give everyone a heads up on this one, which kind of, by weird coincidence, which that is the magic of film and plots, they come together, these two plots.
Maybe that's it as well, because that's it in there as well, which is fine to have. You definitely, most movies have a couple of plots running side by side. That's fairly common. But maybe that's it, and it just didn't feel like this should be, and it just kind of just meandered.
Yeah. So one of the plots is about Rose, our main actor.
I love her dad's videos.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. So Rose and her dad was a famous sort of documentary maker of like paranormal stuff. He was a bit like your Arthur C. Clarke and all the people that used to be on the BBC back in the day.
Ghosts are real.
And his daughter Rose was his apprentice or partner, and they could speak to ghosts or tell people they could, you know, and we find out later on that this is all true. And she's given all that up because her dad died, and we'll get into that in a minute. So she's now just trying to be a driving instructor in a little village, but she keeps getting phone calls, you know, oh, look, my toaster's haunted and my bins are haunted and I think my husband's in my cat, and all these kind of, and she's just like, I just want to be a driving instructor and teach people how to drive. That's all I want to do. I want to leave all that behind me. So there's that plot going on. Meanwhile, there's an American rock star, or he was a rock star. He was a one-hit wonder.
Or one hit winter.
He's now bought a castle in Ireland, which is a very real thing that happens. He's bought a castle in Ireland, where he is planning on releasing his new album and new material. However, much like the whole alleged P. Diddy cult and all that kind of stuff, these people, he's willing to literally sell his soul to Satan. And sacrifice
for another hit, because he's such a fucking uncreative failure. He managed to do one hit with a synth.
So he needs to sacrifice a virgin, and the virgin happens to be related to one of the cases that Rose is and isn't working on.
I've never seen the end of a film when a virgin's about to be killed,
deflowered,
de-virginized while en route
in front of all of her friends.
Yeah.
And the Chinese takeaway man. It's brilliant. Oh, I got a Chinese takeaway here. Great.
I really like the dry humour in this film.
Yeah.
It's very dry. Like, Rose is really good at just like, okay, and just being normal, and it coming across as very dry and innocent humour. She comes across as a really sweet person who's very like, oh no, there's a fish that's popped out of water, I must put it back. She's just becomes a really nice.
Well, spoiler
person.
alert, I mean, she is a virgin, we find out at the end. And
what
if you really,
she like 40s or something?
Probably in her mid-30s, yeah. Like, and that's very apparent once you know that, because she's so sweet and literally innocent. But I'm glad you brought that up, the humour, because I think both of the films we're covering really reflect that Irish dry humour. That there is something about the Irish sense of humour where it's like they take it on the chin. What's the worst that can happen? Oh well, my house has exploded. Oh well, there's a ghost. Oh well, that's just they've always got an expression or a saying, the Irish, like, well, that's just the way it is, isn't it? Don't worry guys, I'm not going to do any Irish accents, but they're just always like, oh well, that's just the way it is, I guess. That's the crack for today. There's a vampire, there's a ghost, and I think that really translates very well in this film and the next one. But you're right, in this film,
really subtly dry humour, and it delivered well.
But it also translates well to the American characters.
Will Forte, yeah.
Yeah, because he's very sarcastic and dry. And again, I get little glimpses, for me, of What We Do in the Shadows, the series, in this as well. It's all very
New Zealand, Australia, and British humour, very similar. Presumably we took a few people who went to Australia from England originally, took that humour with them, but with American characters and their human jokes, to get them to sort of be in with us, it has to be these sorts of characters, the real dry, sarcastic ones. That's why that fits okay in English. Humour.
Like people in real life, like people like Will Ferrell. I don't know Will Forte's in this, but people like Will Ferrell and that, they translate well, because that kind of humour is very very off the cuff, a bit zany.
Well, it's quite funny. I watched the most recent Joe Rogan stand-up act on Netflix, and I was listening to him talking about it on his show, and he's like, "Oh, I spent fucking so long going over it, listening." I was like, I didn't even really laugh once. And it's like, it's because my humour isn't like what because I use example because I listen to him quite a bit. So when he's laughing with his mates and stuff like that, the stuff they laugh at's not really that funny. But that's just because of the difference in humour of worlds. Random thing, 20-25 years time, I bet there's a fucking ton of 40-year-old virgins around the world, because kids ain't doing shit like that now.
No.
We're just going to talk on the internet and not interact at all.
Have you ever had sex? Well, virtually, yes, of course.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But Daisy started chatting to a young lad in North London, getting along really well for me. He's speaking on the phone. He's 14, she's 14. They play Roblox together. But I said to her, last night, I was like, actually, back in the day, we couldn't do that. Maybe we could text someone, but when I didn't have a mobile phone when I was younger stuff, so you had to just go, oh, I do it in person. But this way, she's getting to know, kids are getting to know each other through text and stuff like that. So that's not too bad. You actually kind of, do you know what I mean? Going through, this guy's a dick, get rid of, or this woman's a dick, or whatever. So I think in some ways it works. Anyway, that's not what we're here talking about, though.
No, we're here to talk about Extraordinary. So, but that's what we do. We do our tangents. There's one other thing I wanted to mention, talking of tangents. Let me get this off my chest. The main character in this, other than Rose, is Martin.
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 Now, the reason I applaud his mum and dad. What should we call him? Let's call him Martin. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
The reason I bring this up is, now I believe there was a character in Beverly Hills 90210 called Scott, but I went to school with someone called Scott.
Why did I do it? Martin. Scott. That's not too bad. Martin is actually kind of funny.
Scott was American. He came to my school for he came to school for 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months.
Did he get the shit ripped out of him?
No, because he was just this cool American kid. But I never really spoke to him. Yeah. But when I found out his name was Scott, I was like, I don't understand. I do not understand why he's called Scott. It's just weird. But in this, I love the fact that the guy's called Martin. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, talking of tangents. So I went to school with Scott, and it was really funny for me to see that this guy has to introduce himself in his Irish accent. He's like, I'm Martin. And what's your surname? Martin. I'm Martin. But, Martin said with the Irish, Martin.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so perfect and so funny.
I wonder how both of these films do American listeners, Canadian listeners, and whatever. Please let us know how these films actually translate if you happen to watch them as well, to you guys, This one's the more of the funnier one, but they both have humour. So we start off with this retro TV show, which is, cause I really love this look, and I love this guy. Hello.
This is like your Ghost Watch kind of.
Well, it's just this real sensible guy who's like, hello, ghosts are real, and just kind of doing this sort of thing, just talking.
But so he's like the Garth Marenghi almost character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you can picture that for anyone that knows Garth Marenghi, guys. But yeah, this is Rose's dad.
And it's like, ghosts can be in anything, even cheese.
Yeah.
You might be even eating a ghost if
Well,
you
he
eat
says-
some cheese.
Yeah, he says, do you have nightmares when you eat cheese? You
'cause
might
you're
have eaten
eating
a
a
ghost.
ghost.
The bacteria in cheese could actually be a dead ghost. So you might have eaten a ghost. It's like, what is going on?
And, I quite like it for an opening, and I was kind of a bit gutted, though, I think, the first time. Even this one a little bit, that character isn't actually in it. This movie isn't about that guy making a TV show. You could do like that Devil one that just came out, the TV show, but with this guy instead. That'd be well good.
Well, he basically, in this clip that we're showing, which
Late
is, I
Night
guess,
with
in
the
the
Devil.
70s or something, I guess the show was out, or the 80s maybe, he basically says, ghosts are everywhere, we just don't see them. And then like he shows you footage of like a street, and you're like, well, there's nothing there, but then a little circle
Chris
appears.
Packett moves. He says, "That's a ghost."
And he goes, that
That's
pen
so
just
good.
moved. That pen lid just moved.
That's
that book just
probably
moved.
a ghost.
Most of it's just wind blowing things around, but he claims they're ghosts.
But we find out that he's passed away and he is dead now.
Yeah, and
I felt quite bad about this. At this point here, though, we see some great flowers put upon a grave. So we understand that this is it. And who's this person? Oh, it's possibly his daughter, which it is. And she puts some flowers on the grave and walks along. And then the camera statically from over the road doesn't move as a bin lorry turns up, picks up the flowers, drives off like literally 10 seconds after she's put them down for the grave.
It's
and
very funny.
And a bin lorry knows in it later on.
Well, what's very clever, and you know what you're getting. You know how sharp the writing is so that the woman at the grave was Rose and her sister Sailor. So Rose and Sailor are sisters. Vincent's their dad; he's dead. What's very funny is as they get in their learning vehicle, Rose's learning car to drive away. So she's got one of these great big L's on the top, and she's driving off. As she drives off, it says on the screen, "Based on a true story." Then the bin lorry comes along and just takes that away, basically saying, nah, that's a load of rubbish. And I think that's very clever that they've done that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you spotted that, but it just moves away the based on a true story. It's like, it's not really. But I think that's very funny.
It's a shame. I really wish, though, this film was a bit tighter. And I know it's only 90 minutes, but like I was saying, that thing, I wish it was, because there'd be something, I don't know what it is. Maybe it seems a bit too repetitive after a while. But yeah, I wish it was a little bit tight, because this would be, I think, be in my collection.
I don't know. I really enjoy it.
Then again, it could just be me.
We get some great shots of Irish countryside, letting us know we're in Ireland.
And we find out Rose is a driving instructor, as Dan said earlier.
Yes.
I love, though, right, this is really nice, because we do figure out when they've got Nokia phones, that they've all got Nokia phones, that, okay, we're set in an actual era. Because of that car as well. But then again, we think it could have been now, because some places in the world still have older stuff. But her car was my first ever car when I learnt to drive, and any key in the world would open the door. You could stick in a stick probably and twist it and it would open it up. But I had the exact same car, exactly. And I was so happy to see that. It made me go, that car.
That's brilliant.
Burn the clutch out, you could change gear without moving the gear stick. or putting the clutch down.
Well, the scene of her teaching a pupil who crashes, but she lets him off, just demonstrates, like you said earlier, that she's a really sweet person. She's very forgiving, and she just wants to do good in life, really. Yeah, she lets them off for crashing the car and carrying. He's very nervous, but that's fine. She keeps seeing magpies everywhere. A magpie. She always salutes the magpie, which is the tradition.
Oh, okay.
And that comes back into it later on.
We are getting character development with her, and it's sort of following her, what's going on. We follow her when she go home, and she just pulls her trousers off and just puts on basically what we all do behind closed doors when we get in. We just pull her trousers off, well, I don't eat microwave meals, but I'm sure a lot of people do.
Well, she eats a yogurt first, then eats a microwave lasagna after. She does it the wrong way around.
But yeah, and we know she's a bit lonely because when she comes home, she says, "I'm home."
She says no. She says no one. I'm home.
Oh, I said no one. I'm home. So and we understand that she possibly misses her dad, but she's a really upbeat person, though. We don't know what happened to the mum, but yeah. So this lady, and this is Rose, and she's quite pleasant. She's she's nice. So we kind of know what sort of film we're getting at this point.
But she's got a locked room in her house that she looks at with a big padlock on it.
She gets loads of people who keep leaving her answer phone messages saying, "Oh, I've lost my keys or my phone charger. Could you please just use your powers to find it?" Which is quite funny. But so we're now discovering that she has powers and she's decided to shut them down and not use them. So it's quite easily for us to know exactly what's going on with Rose and who she is as a person.
And she gets a message from
Martin.
Yes, and he says, "Look, is this Rose's driving school? I really need you to call me." And then we see it from the other end.
I love later on, just because she's in that sort of situation, and I think it's her sister. Is the one pregnant? Is that her sister?
Yeah, Sailor, yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, and she, just because she knows that her sister's probably always saying, "Have you found a man? Have you?" Do you know what I mean? She's like, I met someone, and it's like this dude, just like you wouldn't standardly class that as meeting someone. It was just an older guy who wanted a driving lesson around her age, and she's just like. Because she's in that.
They got a connection, though, didn't they?
Not desperate. Well, yeah, not really. He's there for one reason, not for that. And I find it quite funny that she said, "Oh, I met someone," but that's jumping ahead.
Well, we cut to Martin leaving that message. We cut to the other side now, what leads to him leaving that message, which is cool. A nice little bit of editing. So it starts off with this guy, and he's in his bathroom, and he wipes the mirror, and he looks up, and in the mirror it says, "You must pay." He's like, "Oh my God." And then he shuts the other side, and it says, "The car tax." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Thanks, Bonnie." And you start to realise Bonnie, his dead wife, is haunting him.
Yeah, in an abusive relationship. I never thought it'd be someone being in an abusive relationship with a ghost.
Yeah, so she picks out his shirts for him.
That's definitely an abusive relationship.
And she won't let him eat donuts. He tries to pick a different shirt out of the cupboard, and she opens the top cupboard and bangs him, gives him a black eye. We don't see her do this.
And I was
it's
just like, this is shit. It's like, going into Entity World or something.
But we are, because these characters are so fun, and because this is all well written, in my opinion, that's why we just go with this, because his daughter comes downstairs, and his daughter says, "What happened to your eye? Yeah, was it Mum again?"
Yeah.
Oh, Mum.
And when you have the realisation, understanding that the daughter knows as well, it doesn't make it any less a thing. I still feel like it's a bit of a cunt thing for the ghost to be doing.
Oh, of course. And then his dog does that classic thing of dragging its bum all over the carpet.
So the mum puts on the toast. The dog has worms, comes out like in toasted letters.
He says to his daughter Sarah, "See, look, she is trying to help."
Then outside, his daughter's just out the side smoking. He's obviously Martin. He obviously hasn't got a handle on his daughter, and she's fine. She's not going to go off the rails and start, as he says, which I fucking love. This did make me laugh. You're not go. I won't do an Irish accent. You're not go out there and be a homeless sex maniac living on the street snorting hash.
I know, it's brilliant.
And I love that because that made me laugh. I was snorting.
She's like, "Jesus Christ, Dad. Like, where have you been?" And then he says, "Well, basically, they talk about it, and he's like, oh, maybe I will do something, mate." She's like, "There is someone that you know," and he's like, "Well, who are you going to call?" There's your first little Ghostbusters reference. And she says, "The Dooleys." And that's Rose Dooley. So he leaves the message. And then we see him from his side leaving the message. So Rose and Martin meet up. So this is it. This is the connection. Now, there is a connection because when they do shake hands in the car, there is a static shot and the car radio turns on. Now, whether that's Rose's powers or Bonnie doing something, his dead wife's ghost, because he is haunted by his dead wife.
I like the fact
there is some static there.
I like the fact Martin's bought. So I've bought toasted sandwiches, juice, and some mince just off as in case there's onions in the sandwiches.
And he puts it all out on the dashboard. Bless him.
And she's like, "Oh, okay," because she's so sweet and innocent. But it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why would you want to go on a driving lesson and bring toasted sandwiches?
She says, "Take your sunglasses off." He's like, "No, I can't take these off."
He can't take him off because he's got a black eye from his abusive ghost relationship.
So the lesson begins. Now, obviously, he's driving fucking great. He's obviously been driving like 20 years.
Yeah. She's like this. She's sucking on a juice box. Going, this is great.
She says, some people are just good at teaching. She thinks she's such a good teacher.
Some people are just good at teaching.
I'm just gifted at teaching, really.
Yeah.
And then he says, look, I've got to tell you something. I can drive.
Yeah, I've not come for a lesson, but I need help.
My wife. And he starts crying. And she's like, what? And then she sees his black eye. And then he reveals, my wife's dead. I wondered if you could just come and chat to my dead wife.
See, she's definitely not made a connection. It's definitely like, but bless her.
Well, she says no. She says, please. She says, you are an experienced driver with a license. Please remove yourself from my vehicle in a really professional way. And he sort of gets out of her car then. And yeah. And then we get another clip of her dad's show.
I really liked when they're driving along and people just turn into ghosts. I think when they're floating along, just white sheet ghosts.
Yeah,
but I really like that.
She sees signs everywhere.
We're basically going into kind of what she sees,
She sees like the tree branch wave at her, the same tree branch every day.
Waving to me.
She sees that magpie. Now, spoiler, but later on we find out her dad's soul is in the magpie, which is why it's always following her. She sees just like a plug coming off the ground, so it's waving at her, like random things. And at one point, she sees what she thinks is a dead old lady, and she waves back, and the old lady waves back. She goes, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were dead."
Yeah.
But yeah, so she sees all these signs everywhere, and she thinks maybe I should help Martin.
Cosmic Woman music video.
Oh yeah, so we meet American singer Christian Winter. They call him the one-hit Winter. He has moved to Ireland.
Last time we saw him, he was delivering food to Dave Grohl in Studio 666.
That's true, actually, he was. So he's got his new album that he wants to work on and release. He's moved to a castle he's bought in Ireland with his Australian wife, who is called, what's her name? Can't remember her name now. Claudia.
I should have said Dave Grohl because it's our Halloween-y month.
Also, we shall not speak his name anymore because he's got a child out of wedlock.
The thing is, though, he's a rock and roll star. If he ain't shagging around...
Oh, my God. You've said exactly... So my wife messaged me.
It's like, it's come on.
She worships great Dave Grohl. She said,
but trouble
really
is, though,
gutted.
that's the trouble, though. Dave has, over the years, he comes across, because he is a really genuinely nice human person that cares for people and shit. But at the same time, he's rock and roll star.
My wife messaged me.
Like,
and she
Christ.
said, I'm really gutted about this Dave Grohl thing. And I said, oh, well, shit happens. And she went, what? What do you mean shit happens? I said, he's in a rock band.
Yeah. The
Obviously,
women will
he's
be
gonna,
throwing
at some
themselves
point,
constantly.
Yeah.
If he's just done it the once, well done. It's only
What
the
we
once.
don't know is how old this child is. This child might be like 20, 25.
Having a kid's not a good look, though.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But, yeah, come on.
But anyway, he's got this new album coming out, and he just happens to have a virgin floating in his castle in one of the rooms, and he says, oh yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this virgin. He sort of recounts this to his wife, don't forget the virgin's in there, don't go in there. And
this dude reminded me, where I got the crystal ball from, and I've told that story about the secret room and a secret room and a secret room. It reminds me, because this guy is a German pop star, I can imagine him doing this.
Maybe that's what the secret room is for.
I'm moving on Monday. I'm moving around the corner from where that house was. So that crystal ball's going almost home.
Well, hopefully no virgins are floating around there. So he's got this big castle full of very demonic sort of objects, because obviously he's worshipped Satan. That's how he is planning. He's been spending all these years since his one hit doing everything he can so that he can sacrifice a virgin. He studied all the texts, all the rituals, and he's going to sacrifice this virgin, and he's going to have huge success. He's not going to go to a P. Diddy party. He's going to do this instead. Similar things. But unfortunately, his annoying wife, Claudia, decides to pop in the room and wake up the virgin. Now, if you wake up a floating virgin, Gav, what happens?
Oh, it explodes, doesn't it?
It explodes. So he just hears this loud noise, and his wife comes out and goes, oh my God, it's all over me. And he's like, what's happened? This poor girl is in half. There's blood and guts all over the room. He's like, I told you not to wake her up. For God's sake, I've only got 24 hours to find another virgin now before the moon.
It is quite amusing that she's quite annoying, but spoiler, he gets so annoyed with her, he fucking stabs her up.
He slits her throat.
Yeah. Later on.
She says to him, why don't you just use your willy stick to find another virgin?
So he's got this giant, massive staff, which at the top of it looks like a big cock.
It's a big cock and balls on the top of it.
Pretty much. And he basically picks it up, drops it. Wherever it drops is the direction to follow. So she says, why don't you drop it a bit closer to town?
Yeah, because he started in the room.
Left the stick, walks that far, picks it up, does it again. That's ridiculous. So she is correct in that sense.
So he says, yeah, okay. So he gets in his car with his big dick stick. There we go. So cut to Rose. Rose is getting her hair done by her sister. Her sister's a hairdresser.
And this is where she's saying, no, I think I've met a man, Martin.
And she says, have you? Really. But what's really cool about her sister, though, is she goes, well, I'll tell you what the best thing you should do is, you should stalk him. Brilliant advice. Thanks, sis. So she does.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So she follows him into the hardware store that his daughter works in. Sarah, his daughter, works in this hardware store.
It's quite funny. She sneaks in. With a mop. It is quite amusing. It is a bit. She's lovely and nice, but doing the stalking thing's a bit weird. But she doesn't know it. She doesn't know any different, though, because she's so innocent.
She doesn't know. And there's some funny comments during the hairdressing scene where the woman getting her hair done next to her says, you haven't got yourself knocked up like your sister, have you? And she's like doing her hair for her. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, because I can't remember. She got, something's going on with that. I can't remember. I like, though, after it's quite comical in there, he's sort of saying stuff like talking about it. What about that girl? How was it? Well, she's all right. Bit weird sort of thing. So she'd be in the background smiling, go, oh, yeah, okay.
Because he sort of says, she was a bit weird. Very sweet, though. Really
so she'd be
warm
up and down with her, like, but
very lonely and a bit freaky. But also, like, I got a nice warm sense from her. But she was a bit strange. It's like up and down. And she's just hiding behind a mop the whole time, isn't she?
And then he leaves, and she just quickly darts out of the shop as well. Can I help you? No, it's okay. And just as she's coming out, though, Winters is walking in with his willy stick.
Yep, she bumps into it. She's like, Christian Winter!
No, but what I really love, though, she just looks at the stick and just slowly touches it and just says, Willy. She slowly touches the willy stick. Does. She goes, Willy. And it's just for no reason. But
No, there is a reason. She says, Willy. And he goes, well, yes. And she says, no, Willy... like me, I wonder.
But that first bit, okay, yeah. But when she does that, it's almost a bit like Hot Fuzz. It's like cock. It's that sort of gag to it. And she goes to touch it as well, and he's like, what the fuck? And she's just all of a sudden, because being a virgin and that, she probably doesn't even have a vibrator. You know,
she
says
like,
to... Oh, really? So it's quite, I thought that was funny.
She says, Christian Winter, I'm such a big fan of that hit you had all those years ago.
Yeah, she must have already seen him in town, though, but maybe not.
Yeah, because she said, I heard you moved to town. You know, we've heard that you moved to town here. But yeah, you did that one song like 25 years ago. Wow, it's great. How did it go? Cosmic Woman, was it? Cosmic Woman. It's a really bad song, isn't it? Yeah. It's a bit like I'm on a one-way highway. That song that he sings on... Garth Marenghi, I always love that song. So she's now bumped into him, and he has determined that Sarah, Martin's daughter, is a virgin, and he is going to sacrifice her. So that's the plot there.
He's got that wrong.
Well, yeah, we find that out later on, doesn't he? His willy stick wasn't doing very well there, was it? Just a quick snippet of Martin trying to eat a donut. His dead wife Bonnie won't let him do that. She snaps out of his hand. He's like, I just want to eat a donut. Come on.
Surely though, if he passed though, he can eat a donut, eat loads of donuts, get clogged up, pass away from a heart attack, and then he'd be with her.
I tell you what, if Alice died and she was haunting me, she'd be encouraging me to eat donuts. She'd be like, look, you're grieving, eat some donuts, Dan.
I'd be there going, no, and she'd be slapping me up.
Don't.
Stop eating the donut. You're going to turn into one. Like in The Simpsons, you got one where Homer's head's a donut.
Honestly, I know about The Simpsons now.
Yeah.
I loved it when
he
was
picking away at it. Stop picking at your head, Homer.
I loved it when he was trying to eat the donuts, but Bart and Milhouse had the stopwatch, and every time he put a donut in his mouth, it would vanish. The doughs work really well for certain gags.
Yeah.
Like, don't, like the clone one where they all jump off the cliff. Don't.
Good.
Don't. Yeah, Peter Griffin was in that one, wasn't he?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah.
He's one of the clones. It was a funny one, that one. Anyway, Christian begins an incantation. So he's going to do something that's going to make Sarah Martin come to him at some point. Martin calls Rose, I need you to come to my house immediately, because the incantation started. They don't know that, but they go into Sarah's room and she is floating.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Really cool. And again, that's the production. You know, it's not, they've not gone crazy with the effects. It just looks nice.
Yeah, because that's just either a green block underneath her or green wires taken out. So it's nothing incredible, but it just looks good. And
Rose has brought an old fatback TV with her and with a built-in VCR player.
Yeah, well, first of all, Rose is like, no way, this is too much for me, which is a bit weird because she's actually brought a video with her about sheep, floating sheep.
Goats.
Goats. Gloating. A video on gloating.
The goating. He says, why is it called goating? She's like, because they're goats that float. Goating. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. And her dad's like, this episode is called The Goating. And it's his case he worked on where there's this farmer's goats were floating, and if you touch them, they explode.
Yeah.
So she's like, so whatever we do, we can't touch her because she'll explode. And he's like, right, but she's floating in. So this poor guy, he's lost his wife, who was abusive, so that's probably a nice thing for him. He's lost his wife. She's haunting him now, picking out his shirts and donuts for him. Still been abusive, and now his poor daughter is floating above the bed, and he's been told if he touches her, she'll explode.
And he can't eat a donut.
Fucking hell. He can't even wear his fancy shirt until later on.
Yeah. There's a wheelie bin ghost.
There is a wheelie bin ghost. Well, before we get to that then, so we get a little bit of a backstory where she has a vision of her dad saying, why did you slaughter me, Rose? And she's like, I didn't kill you, Dad. So she's somehow at least feels responsible for her dad's death. So that's something that starts playing into it a little bit now. So she learns, what she does is she watches a lot of her dad's old videotapes throughout the rest of the movie, really, to pick up what she should do next. And what she needs, basically, she says, this is most likely a satanic ritual, and it's prepping your daughter for a virgin sacrifice. So this is where she says, if you touch her, you'll explode her, because while she's at this point now, she's protected by this force, this satanic force, and she'll explode. So Christian and his wife are outside thinking, where is the body? Why isn't it floating out to us yet? And then they see Rose and Martin sort of just carrying his floating daughter out and putting her in the car.
Actually.
Like a carpet, like a couple of people moving a carpet around. Funny moment we didn't mention is when she turns up at Martin's house, it's the exact same lighting and shot as the Exorcist poster. And also, he asks her, she says, what we need is ectoplasm. We can collect some ectoplasm, I can help you. And he's like, oh, like in Ghostbusters. And she goes, I've never read it. It's just such a funny little off-the-cuff moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they need ectoplasm. So what they need to do is they need to go to some other ghosts where there's supernatural power. Then that will give Rose the ability to be able to summon Bonnie into Martin, or the ghost or whoever, into Martin's body. She can then exorcise the ghost. He'll then spit out ectoplasm into a Yankee Candle jar, which I love. And then they can collect enough ectoplasm, they can use it then to cancel the ritual. So there's your kind of plot, really, as to what they're going to do over the next 40 minutes or so.
She does get a message from Winters, because he realises that Rose, because he's been observing them. Why is he watching them?
Because he wants the virgin.
Oh, okay.
And they've got the virgin.
Keeping an eye. Yeah, okay. So he's like, who is this? What is this? Well, she has some sort of, he has some sort of powers. She does. That's, so
yeah, he thinks she's a witch. He thinks she's a witch.
So he's like, right, I'm going to see if I can get a driving lesson. So he leaves a message saying, can I have a driving licence? So she goes and picks him up.
And it's a really slow scene where he gets in the car.
I like the fact his wife was playing Snake on the Nokia phone as well.
She was. A really slow scene where he gets in the car and he takes off his gloves really slowly. And Rose is like, okay, we're ready to go. And then he stops, puts on his other gloves, his driving gloves, really slowly. She's like, okay.
It's a bit like he's autistic or something.
And then he stalls the car instantly and bloodies his nose on the steering wheel.
She's like, oh my God, are you okay? Because it's just like, what the fuck? How could you do that? Like, who stalls a car and headbutts the steering wheel that much from a starting off? Have you done that, Dan, in your driving license?
No, I've never done that. You mentioned the wheelie bins. They do. She goes out to another, because she's getting calls still daily from people around the town. So she does go to that person whose husband, who died, is haunting the recycling bin because his wife doesn't, since he died, his wife doesn't bother recycling. And that's where they collect their first bit of ectoplasm. And Martin becomes possessed by this old Irishman who's like, why would you put the food waste in the green bin? I don't know why you do that. And sort of this whole like really mundane haunting.
I do remember thinking that when they're going around doing ectoplasm, it felt like it's very, I know they had to go to different places, but it felt a bit same old. They do have an investigation of a pothole and a dog. And what was the dog's name?
Beans.
Oh.
So there's a flashback now. She tells him what happened to her dad. So what happened to her dad is when she was a child, she was really learning the craft alongside her dad, and he was really trusting her with some of the incantations and rituals. And they got called out to a haunted pothole, such a British thing. However, it turns out it was a portal to another dimension of some kind. And this woman's dog had been dragged into it. So there's a woman holding a lead that's going into a puddle, basically. And she's like, he's in there, Beans is in there, which is Gav's dog's name, everybody. And I thought that.
No,
poor Beans.
I know.
So they tried to get him out. What they did was they summoned his spirit into her dad. Her dad then turned into like...
Starts barking and that. But then he got so excited he ran off and ran into traffic.
Well, she fucked up the spell. She fucked up the ritual. Dog. She got distracted and he ran in front of a lorry, which splattered him. That's why...
The bin lorry.
She feels like she killed her dad.
From the beginning.
Yep. And she feels like she killed her dad.
It's a bit of a piss take of the bin men.
So they get the ectoplasm, and they've been followed all this time by Will Forte, by Christian Winter, and he's like, this witch must be stopped. He's very dramatic in everything he does.
At this point here, like an hour in, it might be because it's so much going on, but generally you'd want lots going on, but maybe it's too much. At this point here, it felt like it was an hour and a half in. Do you know what I mean? And it's like only an hour. That's my opinion.
Well, they get back to Martin's house early. There's a really funny comedy part here, like a really bit of good comedy, where they've got Sarah in the back of the car floating, and she drops Martin off at his house, and he's like, well, bye. And she's like, okay, bye. And she thought, I didn't get a kiss from him or anything. And then he turns around and he comes back, and she's like, oh, wow, look who decided to come on back. And he's like, yeah, sorry, I forgot my dead floating daughter virgin in the back of the car. And he's like, oh, yeah, right, yeah. She thought he was coming back to give her a kiss, but no, he just forgot his daughter was in the back of the car.
I do have a cleaning montage. Winters has a cleaning montage.
He does, yeah, cleaning his flat, his castle.
Yeah. Because he's getting it all ready for his big, you know. And
Martin is also cleaning his daughter's room while his daughter's floating in there. He's vacuuming underneath her. He puts some deodorant under her armpits, bless him. He's really still looking after his girl. And yeah, so we've already had the driving lesson. We did jump ahead earlier when we got to that, didn't we? But he uses the driving lesson to basically say to her, maybe the driving instruction isn't your best talent, Rose. Do you have another more deeply hidden talent that you want to tell me about? And she's like, no, get out of my car. So he's like, well, you are hiding another talent there, and he knows that she's got some kind of supernatural ability.
Yeah, because I thought you jumped ahead with ectoplasm because they kind of do that soon. But you were just explaining what the
well, they do want ectoplasm when the wheelie bins.
Yeah, they see, this is why, because they did that then, and then they're both together. Then their friend turns up, or it's his sister, and she says, "Oh, gotta say, she thinks we shagged last night."
Yeah,
and Martin's like, "Oh, gross." She's like, "Oh, yeah." But anyway, Then they start doing the looking for ectoplasm. So this is what I think. It just feels like there's so much in there. It just makes it feel like it's so much more.
And what Christian also did with that driving lesson was he stole her scrunchie. So he had an object of hers that he can use in a nefarious, demonic way. So yeah, he's also collected her scrunchie, her hair scrunchie, or hair bobble, whatever it is, in whatever country you call it. An big elastic band thing that women put in their hair, or men if you've got long hair.
But yeah, I think it's quite a slow-paced movie, really, which is fine. But I think it does need to get to the point a little bit quicker.
But she decides, although she's fearful about having a partner help her in a supernatural case, because last time she killed her dad, essentially. Yeah. She decides, I will work with you and you can help me. So he gets loads of jars ready, clean jars, so they can get ready to collect a load of ectoplasm.
They go to a graveyard later on, and in the red light, it looks so nice. Again, it's like being on the moors again. There's no natural light source for a big red light, but the graveyard looks super good.
Yeah, it's a blood red moon.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Is that what's giving that red look? Okay. And
Christian's preparing for the incantation by whistling and singing. Satan, Satan, do 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 do. Satan, Satan. He's just having a great time.
He's a bit of a fucking moron.
Getting
I love
everything
the fact
ready.
That Martin explains about how his wife died, and he made a lovely kissing cuckoo clock, and it turns out it just basically just went did its thing, then flipped around and hit her on the head, and it's just like that's what killed her. My God.
Yeah, bless him. So we get a funny montage now of them going around to various people who've got hauntings that they're going to get the ectoplasm from by summoning the spirit.
Yeah, this is where I was just like, this is so dragging now.
Oh, I really like this. So they go to one person and she's like, oh, the mould on the wall is my grandma. And they're like, oh, I can't really see that. No, I swear it's my grandma. Okay, so they manage, it is. They get the ectoplasm, great. Then they go to a stag's head. And he's like, this stag's head has been crying for about 2 weeks. And she's like, oh, strange. And she tastes the tear. She goes, it's 7-Up. And he's like, that was my wife's favourite drink. And it's like, okay, so it's your wife's spirit in the stag's head. Great. So they get the ectoplasm from there. Then they go to one guy and they're like, so what's going on? He said, well, there was a werewolf in my garden, a big ginger werewolf. And they have this whole discussion about, is a werewolf ginger? I suppose if someone was ginger and they turned into a werewolf, they would be a ginger werewolf. And then she's like, so what did it look like? He's like, just a big ginger wolf. And she's like, was it a fox? And he's like, yeah, it probably was a fox, actually.
I didn't like that at all. I thought it was really forced humour, because that's just when you have a joke, like, oh, okay, cool, but then he's just like, oh no, it was a fox. No one thinks a fox is a fucking 6-foot werewolf.
Well, this lunatic old man did.
Nah, I thought it was a really forced joke and didn't like it.
Well, they take her to Bonnie's grave. She takes him to Bonnie's grave and says, like, I think we can get the ectoplasm from her as well. There is a connection between us. I think we should do it. And they get back to, because they've left her sister Sailor to babysit the Virgin upstairs, but they get back and she's actually got a boyfriend over, the one who's got her pregnant, and they're like, oh, nice to meet you. And he's like, hi, I'm Ian of the Durham County Council government section. And he's like, why are you telling me this, Brian, or whatever his name is? You don't need to tell me who you are. And they start discussing. They basically just cut straight to the chase. She's like, look, this is what's happened. All right, sister, there's a woman, the girl upstairs is a virgin. She's in a trance. She's going to be sacrificed. We need you guys on board with this. So we're going to start a ritual right now where we're going to summon Bonnie into her husband. And it's brilliant when they do this, because that cigarette just pops out of his mouth, doesn't it? A lit cigarette. And he just turns into this like crazy old Irish woman, the abusive dead wife of his.
Yeah.
And it's great. And he's this guy is really good at doing the physical, because he's playing two characters really there. He's being himself, but then he keeps turning into his wife as well. And I think it's really well done. I was trying to figure out if they dubbed the voice over, if it was him doing the voice.
No, it's him doing the voice. Yeah, it's right.
And she says, get your filthy hands off my Martin. I know what your game is. And she's like, no, it's not like that. We're just trying to save your daughter. Your daughter's upstairs under a trance. And she's obviously very abusive, cigarette-smoking, hardy old Irish woman. I don't know why he would have married her. She seems like a right old battle axe, didn't she?
Yep.
She probably bullied him into the marriage. But Rose exercises Bonnie and tells Brian, the boyfriend, to go and rub this ectoplasm all over the girl upstairs' face. And he's like, well, there's no one upstairs. And they realise she's already been taken by Christian. So she says, right, okay, let's follow him. And we get this really slow chase where there's a floating girl just floating really slowly down the highway.
It's like a funeral procession, going along, driving slowly. And
then we get a really slow car following her, and then they're following Christian's car. Yeah. And it's just, he even gets out at one point and says, let go of my daughter. Stop, leave her alone. And then they grab her ankle, the baddies, and just drive off with this floating girl dragging behind them in the car. And Martin loses a couple of fingers, doesn't he? In the car window. Yeah. So that's not good. Brian picks one of them up. Poor Brian. He's been dragged into this. The boyfriend. He's just been dragged into this whole crazy scenario. And the ritual starts at the castle. So they're like, maybe if we could just hide here, we might be able to sneak in the castle.
Winters kills his wife as well at some point.
Well, she orders Chinese food and says, if it's not here in 30 minutes, I'm not paying for it. The Chinese food delivers, so they sneak in with the Chinese guy. But the woman, Claudia, Christian's wife, sends him away and says, no, this isn't the rice we ordered. Go back and get it. Get the right order, otherwise I'm not paying for any of it. And she's just eating this Chinese food while he's trying to do this huge satanic ritual. She's there going, I've just put yours out on the plate for you, love, all right? There's some chicken chow mein. And he's like, oh, for God's sake. So yeah, he just goes over to her, cuts her throat, and then he eats a spoonful of Chinese and then carries on. So the others sneak into the castle. However, bad timing, because Sailor's contractions start. That's not what you need. You don't need somebody having a baby. Now, I thought it was going to be something to do with the baby being born that was going to block the ritual or something like that.
I actually thought it was going to get really dark and say, I want that baby as the virgin.
Yeah.
That baby is obviously
sacrifice the baby, like in Monster Squad.
Yeah.
What's a virgin?
Yeah.
So Martin interrupts the ritual and he's like, you get away from my girl. And Christian Winter's like, can't a man just sacrifice a virgin in peace around here? Some blood drips onto the pentagram on the floor and it creates a huge portal underneath Sarah. Now, this is where a lot of the money would have gone for these effects, because this huge portal, presumably to hell, appears below Sarah, and she actually drops into it. So Christian fights Martin. They have a good old scrap. But Bonnie takes over Martin's body because she's a badass. She gets a cigarette out, burns
domestic
him.
abuser. Yeah, she knows how to fight someone.
Yeah, she knows how to beat her husband.
Yeah.
She burns Christian on the face with a cigarette. Sarah gets spat back out of the portal and she's actually awake. But the Dark Lord arrives, this huge entity in a sheet, which looks great, I think.
It didn't too bad.
It reminded me of the Frighteners, but actually better effects than the Frighteners. And the Dark Lord says to Christian, you've broken our contract. Now I'm going to swallow your soul because the girl you gave me was no virgin. And Martin's like, what? What do you mean my daughter's not a virgin? No, she's a virgin. And then he points to Rose and says, she is a virgin. And she says, no, I'm not. There was that guy. And he says, just the tip went in. So the Dark Lord's like, just the tip went in. That doesn't count. She's like, oh, okay. But Christian's happy. He's like, great. I'm going to sacrifice Rose in that case. So Martin comes to the rescue. What do they do, Gav? What does Martin do to Rose? With her permission, of course.
Starts boning her while she's being slid along the floor.
Quick, come and do me, quickly. Kiss me, you fool. And then Bonnie, it gets really weird now, because then Bonnie sort of joins in, possessing her husband.
It's like a threesome.
She said, hey, he likes it like this, give it like that. And then she turns back, and it's all a bit weird. Christian gets an eye poked out by the magpie, who we later find out is Rose's dad's soul inside there. And then, the baby starts being born as well, so it's all happening all at once. Christian ends up falling into the portal. His wig comes off as a final fuck you, and he just goes and falls down and dies. And then Rose and Martin have a post-coital cigarette, which is actually Bonnie's cigarette. And Bonnie says through Martin, "Look after him, Rose. You know, he's a good lad, really. I wasn't very nice to him, but you're a good girl. You'll look after him." And then she turns back into Martin. And then Rose says, "Well, wait till I tell people my first time is technically a threesome," which is just weird. The baby's born. And it turns out, as I've said, that her dad's spirit is in the magpie. He speaks to her through Martin. And they show him his grandson, who they decide to call Vincent after him. And then the special fried rice shows up. The guy's like, "I've got your special fried rice here. Sorry it's late." And then we cut to 3 months later. So that was a very crazy end to it. And we cut to 3 months later, and Rose and Martin have started a paranormal investigation business together called Extraordinary. And then a strange ending with him proposing to her and her just saying, no. He asks her to marry him, and she says, no.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
It is.
But it's about the little moments and the interactions between the characters and the little off-the-cuff, dry humour jokes, I think, throughout this.
Yeah, I like it all, but even just doing that review just brought it back to me. Like the first 45, 50 minutes, I'm kind of with it. Then the rest of it just goes on, it feels like so, and it just doesn't, that ending's not as, it's okay. It's, do you know what I mean? It's just, it's all right. I'm let down by it, unfortunately. But Holly, I did enjoy it. I'm not being negative. I can't help it.
I wrote 3 words at the end.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
And heartfelt. I felt like there was a lot of heart in this.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about the next film as well. I feel like both of these films have got quite a lot of heart in them. Because although it's crazy, silly, you know, they're collecting ectoplasm, there's dead wives speaking through their husbands, there was a lot of heart in there. There was a lot of talk about grief, but and also just normal things that people do, you know. People get home and they eat their microwave lasagna and that kind of thing. I don't know. I really enjoyed this, and I actually preferred it even more the second time around. And like I've said, I will definitely come back to it. I'd say a thumbs up from me. Would you give it a thumbs up?
Yeah, because I like I said, I like the production, everything in it. It just needs to be tighter. It's just, even though it's only an hour and a half, so it's like, it can't be editing. Well, I suppose you can, but I don't know. A thumbs up. Yeah, I lose. I guess my attention goes.
I guess a small criticism from me is it does feel a bit like, I mentioned earlier, there's 2 plots, and it does feel like I think maybe take
one out.
But then it would be interesting to see just the story of Rose meeting Martin. That would have been a funny film.
I suppose that would be a romantic comedy.
It feels like they've stapled in another plot about a rock star who wants to sacrifice a virgin.
Yeah, and she's going to use her powers to save it. And it's
all very well polished, but it does feel like, again, sometimes those 2 plots work, like, create a bit of friction against each other. Yeah. That is I see what you mean. Sometimes it does feel that, but overall, it's an enjoyable ride.
But I am, though, hands up, I'm absolutely terrible with my attention span. It is awful. I'm really bad, as everybody fucking knows who listens to the show. So when I watch movies, sometimes if I'm not got something else going on, and it did feel the same, kind of, I just start to go, and I start tapping out a little. And I did. But it's a wavy thumbs up for me. You know, it's cool. Good. It's got everything there. I really like it. I just start to go, So that's it. But, you know, I'm not being negative. It is still a pretty decent film in some senses.
Well, there we go. That was Extraordinary. Now, Bill Murray. Talking of Extraordinary, Bill Murray's walked in the room and he is ready. He's dressed up as a vampire, Bill, Gary Oldman vampire.
Bill, who do you call when something happens? So if there's a ghost, obviously you've been called before, Ghostbusters. What do you do if it's a plumbing incident at home? Do you call the Ghostbusters just in case it's ghosts, or do you call a plumber? Oh.
He calls Dan Aykroyd, right? Great.
Well, can Dan do everything? Apparently so.
Okay.
He's got a utility belt. All right.
Well, so is Batman. That doesn't mean he can do everything.
I won't get Batman doing my plumbing.
I would. God, he'd be brilliant at it. Imagine Batman turning up. I heard you've got a turd in your toilet.
You remember my friend doing KRS-One's turd?
I do. KRS-One.
Block
Fresh.
plumbing. Fresh.
In
Toilet.
my U-bend, you suckers. Oh, is that upstairs? Thanks, KRS. I'll just go and sort that for you now. Imagine how embarrassing that was for him.
Oh,
I'm
my name's
KRS-One.
Chris. You're KRS-One? Yeah, it's just Chris already, isn't it? I've done a shit. It's fucking blocked.
I've done a really big shit. I went to a big party with Rakim and Eric B and a bunch of other people.
Not P. Diddy.
I ate a load of food, and unfortunately, I've done a turd the size of...
This is true, listeners. My friend who lives in Los Angeles, he's from England as well, and he's just like, yeah, one time, and he's a plumber, and he just went round. He's just a plumber who's on spec, so like people ring up and his company or whatever, tell him where to go, and he just turns up at a house one day, and it's KRS-One, who's a very well known, respected, loved rapper. So it's just a funny joke. But he told me, I was like, that's so funny.
It is funny.
I don't know if his shit was blocked. I can't remember. It might have been. I don't know.
Who knows? But anyway, Bill, if you can take us into World of the Strange.
Hi, welcome back to World of the Strange.
World of the Strange. It's World of the Irish Strange Vampires. Strange worlds. Well, as inspired by Holly, our Queen patron.
Oh, can I quickly say before we get into it, I watched another Irish film. I know it's.
Oh, you did?
Different. I did just because I thought I would. I'm going to give it a shout out, but it's nothing amazing. But it's I don't want to say the movie it's like because it kind of spoils it. But it's a found footage movie called Cronewood, which you can find on Amazon. About a man and a woman who go on a date and they go out to the woods and camping in an island. But it's got a lot of island, like forests and sort of scenery, so it's quite nice. Is it worth a watch? Yeah, maybe. Kind of. It's nothing incredible, but it's right.
Yeah, there's some good Irish horror out there. Yeah. And there's a lot, certainly.
I meant to say that earlier and I forgot. So.
And that leads me nicely on to there's certainly a lot of Irish legends and folklore.
But my 31 list is quite special each year, and that hasn't, even though it's a horror movie, I'm not counting it. Cronewood, because it's like you're not worthy of my 31 though.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Where Blair Witch, yeah, absolutely.
Well, you will think of Ireland when you think of folklore, and you normally will go straight for leprechauns. Yes, okay. You will also think perhaps of the banshee. There's obviously fairies and pixies and giants. So Ireland has its fair share
Giant's Causeway.
Yeah, there's a fair share of folklore, but one thing I never knew of until Holly put me onto it, and that will lead us on to our next review later on, which is based on this legend, is the legend of the Irish vampire. Now, there's one main one I'm going to be talking of, but there is a second one I discovered as well, so I'll talk about both of these. And these are apparently based on like real people from 2,000 odd years ago in Ireland. Now, the main one I'm going to be talking about is the legend of Abhartach, which is the main vampire from the next film. Spoiler alert, it's a vampire film. But you'll know that if you're going to watch it. Abhartach. So let's talk about him and where he came from. So as I've said, he is 5th century. And apparently he was a dwarf.
It's a little person vampire.
Yes, an Irish dwarf vampire.
It'd be like Eddie Munster. Attack Eddie Munster. Lost Boys.
Now, what's interesting is, on a side note, before I get into the details of his story, of Abhartach's story, Bram Stoker was Irish. And it's come to light recently that actually Bram Stoker may well have been influenced by this legend.
Yeah.
Rather than Vlad the Impaler.
Well, if like growing up, you might have heard of the local folklore. Definitely, yeah.
Yes, because he was inspired by. So he was born in 1847, Bram Stoker, and at that time there was no internet. Funny enough, Gav, in 1847.
Was it there?
It wasn't even there. But he would have been inspired by the legend, some other Irish legends, like I've mentioned, fairies and changelings are another one. Now, vampires are like malevolent sort of fairies in a way. They're also supposed to be changelings. They can change from thing to thing.
Good changeling film, The Hollow.
The Hollow, that's a good one as well, yeah. But also, this legend will probably have inspired Bram Stoker as well. So rather than Vlad the Impaler and all the other things, it's most likely Abertak, the Irish dwarf vampire, that would have inspired him.
He just thought, though, like, right, what we're going to have here, like a vampire just biting groins. We need one that's full size. We're not having a party pack.
We need a Gary Oldman one.
We're not having a party size. Fun size.
Well, they've already got leprechauns, so they don't need, like, they need a bigger one, don't they?
They need a big one.
Well, you know, there's only so much that Warwick Davis can do, although I'd love to see him play Abertak. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, hello there. I've come to bite your blood, suck your blood. He's done it in the Leprechaun. He can do it in...
Yeah.
Anyway, so Abertak. Now, Abertak is actually apparently Irish for dwarf. And he was first written about in 1870. A guy called Patrick Weston Joyce wrote The Origin and History of Irish Names and Places, and that's where he first spoke of the legend. So the legend of this Abertak guy and who he was, she's got a very interesting story, and again, this is said to be famous, real, but it's over 2,000 years ago, so we don't know. But I thought it might be fun just to listen to his story, and then, as I said, I got another vampire legend from Ireland to talk about as well. So, as I say, 5th century, he was very evil chieftain. So back then they had all these clans, and he was the very bad, abusive, horrible chieftain. Apparently, even though he was small, everyone was really, really scared of him. People also said that he apparently practiced the dark arts. He loved torturing people and doing lots of nasty things. He suspected his wife was having an affair, and he decided to try and catch her in the act. He climbed out of a bedroom window of his castle to try and spy on his wife. However, he slipped.
Already when he started, like, what are you doing? Climbing out a window? Well, I'm going to see if she's... Is there not another way?
Did they have bedrooms 2,000 years ago? I guess they did.
Oh, yeah, of
well,
course.
They had castles,
but come on. Like...
Well, he slipped and fell to his death.
Yeah, but fucking dickhead.
But so they found his body the next day, and everyone in the village, all the clan, were relieved. Thank God he's dead, because we can just be normal now, not have him like torturing and murdering us. So they buried him standing upright.
Why?
Because because to bury somebody upright is really disrespectful, and they didn't like him. So they rather than bury him led down, they wanted to bury him upright.
Should have fucking buried him bent over with his pants down.
Hello. Not a P. Diddy party.
Yeah, but that would be disrespectful, wouldn't it?
Well, unfortunately, in the morning, when everyone woke up, Abertak was back.
I don't want to see dead ass, though.
Abertak had risen, and he was there the next day. And he said, I'm really angry that you all did this to me, and I need someone. He had a bowl in his hands, and he said, somebody needs to cut their wrists for me.
So he came back.
He came back and he said, somebody needs to cut their wrists open and fill this bowl with the blood. And they picked someone out of the crowd, pushed them forward, they cut their wrists.
Why me?
And he drank the bowl full of that person's blood.
Wow.
So they went to their enemy clan.
At this point, they're like, oh, fuck, he's back and worse.
Yeah, and he's even angrier.
He's back in black.
Because he'd been buried up, standing up, which was probably only 3 foot based on his height.
Should have done the bent over, but banana in the tailpipe.
So they went to the nearest clan, which was one of their enemies, and they said, look, peace, listen. Abertak's back. We thought he was dead. Please, can one of you kill him? Because we're really scared of him.
Please? Is this like Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood?
And the leader said, all right, I'll do it.
Clint Eastwood.
So he killed Abertak for the second time.
How'd he do it?
With a sword.
Right. Head chop.
They buried him upright. Again, they haven't learned the lesson, Kev.
He came back, yeah?
In the morning, he's back.
So, but the guy who killed him, he must be like, right, I'll fucking go back and do it again.
He was holding a bowl in his hand, and he said, I need more blood from you. How dare you do this to me? So somebody else had to fill that bowl with their blood, and he drank that. They killed him. He was killed again, and he came back again the next day.
Oh, come on, people!
So after 3 days of him coming back, They went to a local
I was
saint.
going to say, 3's a magic number. If you haven't sorted it by 3, if you're going into 4th, game over. Good.
So they went to a local saint for help. What can we do? He's come back 3 times, keeps asking for blood. Keeps drinking blood. What should we do? And the saint said, now bear in mind, just on a quick tangent, real life, there are no... So Bram Stoker basically invented the legend of the vampire. But this is a 2,000-year-old folklore before all of that. And as we've discussed, probably multiple times, if you go back in all the ancient civilizations, they've all got their own version of a blood-sucking undead vampire. So it's very interesting.
You just got to watch Mario Bava's Black Sabbath to see the Vondervike or whatever it's called, the vampire.
It's really interesting. But the saint said, okay, here's what we do. Here's what you got to do. He's already dead. That's the trouble, mate. He's undead. That's why he keeps coming back. So the only thing you can do here is stab him through the heart with a piece of wood from a yew tree. It's got to be from a yew tree. Okay? Then you've got to bury him upside down.
Oh, it's close to bent over.
Similar to bent over. And then you've got to cover the grave with ash branches and thorns, and then put heavy stone slabs on top of the grave. It's the only way you can keep him down there. You've got to do all that. So the guy that had killed them the first 2 or 3 times said, all right, I'll do it. So he fought him. He stabbed him through the heart with a branch from a yew tree. They buried him upside down, put all the branches and everything on top of him, put some rocks on him, and he never came back. Now, over the years, I think on the eve of the anniversary of his death or something, they would put more rocks on him to the point it's now this grave, this big pile of rocks, which we will talk about when we come to discuss the Boys from County Hell, because there's very significant scenery in that, which is the big grave, the big rocks. As I've said, Holly has been to this place before. It doesn't look like it does in the film, but it is a couple of big rocks next to a tree. I'm just looking at pictures of it now. It's a very beautiful setting. So that is the legend of Abhartach, who, as I've said, is supposed to have inspired Bram Stoker, not Vlad the Impaler or any of that. That's coincidence, because he'd never been to Transylvania. Bram Stoker probably never left Ireland, really. So it's really interesting.
Well, he did, because he came to England, went to Whitby on holiday, and he wrote
okay, other than that, but he certainly never went to Transylvania.
No, so I reckon, if he's on a holiday in Whitby and he's in a hotel, because Sarah and I went and saw the hotel and a plaque on it and all this sort of stuff, and he thought, use this destination, and it wrote the story there. You're more likely you're right. Over where he was, taking all that idea, had it all in. It's like, I'm going on holiday. I've done it before. Gone on holiday to go and write stuff because it's a really good time to do it. Yeah, it makes sense. Go over there and write it from that sort of basis, and just come up with other stuff. Maybe looking over at the sea. It's like, well, actually, I'll have someone come for us, just like develop the story from where his location was. But yeah, cool.
And it's this is a story, a piece of folklore that was written about a long time ago, and it's not real potentially, but then who's to say? There was probably a dwarf called Abhartach who was not a very nice person, then he had to be killed. It's unlikely he probably came back from the dead and drank blood, but at the same time,
Chinese whispers.
Yeah. So that led me on to another Irish vampire called and I'll try and pronounce this correctly because it's a Celtic word, 2 Celtic words. It's Darag Dua, which it's a female vampire. She's also called the Red Blood Drinker, or the Red Blood Sucker, or the Red Thirst. Cool. And this is another one that's about 2,000 years old as well. Beautiful red-headed Irish woman.
Sexy lady.
She was in love with a guy but forced to marry another man, an arranged marriage her dad pushed her into, with a very abusive, rich sort of lord who forced her into such depression that she just stopped eating and drinking and sort of withered away and died. Basically, she killed herself through not eating and drinking. But she did come back a year later. She came back because he remarried and was abusing the second wife. So she came back a year later, and men were being lured to the woods that she haunted. because of her beauty, this beautiful red-headed Irish lady. Come into the woods. She was sort of, come on.
Oh, you're luring me, Dan.
And she would suck their blood. The first person she killed, she actually just sucked their life force, but she went on to then drink blood and really liked it. And there's not an awful lot on her other than the things I've already just discussed, other than the fact that when they finally staked her through the heart, they also buried her in somewhere called Waterford in Ireland. And every year after that, people put rocks on her grave to hold her down underground as well. And you can go and visit that place as well. So it's really cool that there's a couple of really old, 2,000-year-old tales of Irish vampires who I would never have guessed. Never even heard of the Irish vampire until today. Well, until this episode. It's fantastic, Holly.
It is. Whereabouts is the location of the rocks?
What?
The first one?
Oh, the first one. Let me...
I was just wondering, what, north, east, south, west,
Yeah, I got it here. Hang on, I should have it.
Yes, Ireland's a very beautiful place. I've been there a couple of times, enjoyed it.
I've only ever been to Dublin, which is like a bit touristy, isn't it, obviously?
Yes, because I hanged around Ballymoney.
I've stopped there a sec because my internet's not working.
Oh, don't worry.
Oh, right, now it's working.
I was just intrigued.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, really cool though. Old Irish vampires.
Yeah, I can't find the area now, but it's near Holly.
I'll have a look myself.
So Holly will probably let her. Yeah, it's really cool. Abertach, Abhartach. So yes, that was World of the Strange. That's going to lead us nicely into our next film, which is got elements of Abertach in it, and a very different type of vampire who doesn't do the usual vampire things. Really cool. Can't wait to discuss it. So, Bill, if you want to take us out of here, we'll. Oh my God, what's he got all over him? What's he got all over him?
Is that Diddy's oil? What? Oh no! Come on, let's get into the trailer. We're not going there. God. We're not. No, it's not appropriate. Right, here's a trailer for the film.
That's all the time we've got for this week on World of Strange. Next week, though, gimme Ira. Hairless pets. Weird.
Some things are older than science, older than God. The earth has its own secrets, and if you get close enough, you'll hear it.
Haven't you guys got anything better to do?
Nope. No, we don't. This land belonged to Abertach. He drained people's blood and drink it like water.
Like Dracula.
Fuck Dracula.
I'd love to know if there's actually anything under there.
We'll find out soon enough.
I saw something weird.
Whose foot's that?
Fuck this, I'm out! There's a vampire! Oh my sake!
That wee fucker tried to bite me!
This isn't Dracula. People don't get turned from a fucking bite. They get turned by the stones from Abertach's grave.
Fucking move, will ya?
We need better weapons. Are there any ideas in there?
What about sunlight? I mean, that is the #1 vampire killer.
Burn, you bastard!
Oh, shit. If Abertach binges all night, the whole town's gonna be dead as fuck.
I moved to the wrong fucking town.
You shite!
Oh, come on, like, what are we supposed to do about this?
I have a few days' work for you if you're interested.
Doing what?
Babysitting. My brother died last year. He had a daughter, Olga. She keeps going out to the house where he died. The place is in the middle of nowhere, and I don't like the idea of her being out there on her own.
So 200 a day. Just to go to the house and keep her company.
That's it.
There's got to be more to it than that. You didn't say anything about the house being on an island.
Come on, what's the big deal?
Does anyone know you're here?
Barrett said he killed himself.
In the basement.
Is there someone down there?
Are you going to tell anyone what I asked you to do?
She was mad.
I wouldn't do something like this.
Do you think he's gonna let you leave here?
You really made a mess of this.
Boys from County Hell 2020. Sounds like a Western, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Yeah, and in some ways it does remind me a little bit of Near Dark.
Pantera, Cowboys from Hell.
Well, it reminds me a bit of Near Dark at times. But anyway, Boys from County Hell 2020. A crew of hardy road workers led by a bickering father and son must survive the night when they accidentally awaken an ancient Irish vampire. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Directed by Chris Ball. Never seen this before.
No, I'd seen the picture because it's not a bad poster, but no.
Cards on the table. I absolutely love this. I was very pleasantly surprised by it. It was highly original because I don't know the legend, which I talked about in World of the Strange. But everything about this was original. The way the vampire kills people, which we'll get into. I also loved the whole father-son dynamic. They've lost their mum, all that kind of stuff that was going on with it. And the funny little characters. And again, there perhaps were some big little Shaun of the Dead-y type characters and stuff threaded into it. Because unfortunately, that is like the staple of British type humor, isn't it? But this was just very good, and I'm very excited to talk about this. I think do you want to just give a quick overview, or do you want to save it?
No, it's all right. I've not seen it before. Yeah, it's all right.
It was all right. Okay. Wow. All right, well, let's get into it.
To be honest, though, I saw this a little while ago, and I've seen a lot of movies since. So as we go through it, I'm going to have my memory jogged a lot more.
Good.
I've been watching a lot of horror.
Well, let's jog it.
And making a horror movie.
Let's jog it then. So, Ireland is a very beautiful countryside. We start off with some very nice dark landscapes. It's a lot darker in tone than Extraordinary, and a lot more serious, in fact, even though it's got some comedy in it. But it's heartfelt, but a lot darker and a lot more serious. And we start off with an old couple watching TV.
Yeah.
Should we go for a drink at the Stoker? Oh, like what they did there.
I really, really, really like one thing in this film is this new law bringing in whenever a vampire's close that you just bleed from somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I really loved about this.
Because this first bit, when this old fella's fucking bleeding from his eyes.
And his wife's bleeding from her nose.
Yeah, nose is like, you've seen that before, but the eyes like that much as well, and it was really, it's very well done.
So before we get into it then, so with this vampire, he doesn't really bite you. He's so powerful that your blood leaves your body, and you see these shots of blood trickling down streets or through rooms heading towards him, and he just sucks it into him that way. Like almost like in Ghostbusters 2 when the slime is sort of channeling towards Vigo because it's taken all the negativity out of the city or the positivity out of New York. It's similar to that. It's just so cool, and I've never seen anything like it really.
Yeah.
But yeah, this old couple are sat there. They start bleeding from their eyes and their noses, and the blood trickles out the room. Something comes in the room. They scream, and then it says 2 months earlier.
Yeah, I've just been watching while we've been chatting on the trailer, obviously muted. Just get me memory back on it. Yeah, it's quite fun. I think with this, where the other film I thought was really well cast, I think this was okay cast. But what I remember thinking of this movie is that I know, like Jaws, you don't see Jaws till the end, but like the creature vampire in this is so good. It's so good,
and they don't keep him.
But I'm gutted because it's so good. I would have been like an 80s horror flick, 80s monster. Think mid-80s monster flick. You know what you get. You're going to see the monster all the way through doing killing. And I know it's, like a sort of formulaic Friday the 13th, kill, story, kill, But I would have loved to have seen this monster early. I think I was really gutted that I didn't see more of it because it looks so good. And sometimes there's no point I know, like, they must have looked at it and designed it. At no point did they go, that's a shit monster, vampire creature, look. Everybody must have, that's incredible. In the way they light it and they film it. So I'm gutted we didn't see more of the monster.
Well, it's a double-ended sword, isn't it? Because you really appreciate the fact they don't...
If you were to go watch it again, you'd be like, I can't wait to get to the monster. So yeah.
But also, it's so good when it is revealed that you do want to see him all the way through.
I wish we had. So
it's very incredible creature design.
It is. I'm gutted. Honestly, it's worth it. Very much worth it for the monster.
And I don't know, man. I just fucking. Anyway, let's talk about it. I love this film. So yeah, we get a beautiful cello score. Over the fields with the credits coming up, and it's Welcome to 6 Mile Hill. So that's the name of this fictional little place, 6 Mile Hill. And the Stoker is indeed a pub. Now, this town is built on the legend of Abertac. Basically, their tourism comes from the fact that Bram Stoker may well have used Abertac, as we said, to write Dracula. So the pub there is called the Stoker. It's got Dracula on the picture. And so there's a little bit of a American Werewolf in London vibe at times to this as well.
Yeah, I agree. One thing with that kill last time, but it happens in other kills as well. You have overhead shots where the blood trickles out almost like trees, like
roots growing.
Yeah, around. If you just overhead look down on a tree, and it's just new stuff with the vampire, which is nice because, frankly, vampires like zombies are kind of boring. So.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, those two definitely.
But this is a different type of vampire. Like I've said, he doesn't suck your blood like that. He sucks your blood, but not like that. He takes it out of you. You've got no choice. If he's outside my house, my body will empty of all of its blood and go out the door to him.
Which is so
fucking
cool.
Terrifying. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to step the threshold like the traditional vampire has to be invited in. It's great. It's so good. We're in this.
That is a really strong opening, by the way. That really strong.
So we're in this pub, the Stoker, and there's a load of lads having a drink in there. And these are going to be the people that we find out are our main guys. And a couple of tourists walk in.
Yeah, it's very American Werewolf in London, isn't it?
And they're sort of talking about.
They're even playing darts.
Yeah, they're playing darts.
But that is generally the pubs, so.
And they say to them, what you're going to say to us, stay off the moors? They're Canadian. And they say, no, there aren't any moors here. This is Ireland. But don't go out there alone because there's some dangerous things. And they're like, oh, would you give us a tour? And he's like, yeah, if you give us some money. Because they haven't got any money to buy any more beers. So they get these Canadians to give them some money and buy them some beers. And they take them on a little walk into the fields, don't they?
Yeah.
And they tell them the Abertac legend that Bram Stoker was inspired and all that kind of stuff that I mentioned in World of the Strange. And they take them out to this grave, which is essentially a big pile of rocks which is supposed to be Abertak's sort of grave. And he gives this very good speech, that the main guy in it, Eugene, he says, and it is said that if you get too close to the rocks, you will hear a noise, and just as you hear that noise, your blood will leave your body. Go on, go and listen. So the Canadian guy goes over and he listens, and as he puts his ear next to it, their buddy SP grabs them with a scary hand and scares these tourists, and they run off scared. They all think it's very funny. Clearly it's something they've probably done before. Very funny, very silly. And they have a little chat about the main plot, really, which is they're building a bypass, a big highway through this village soon, which probably means they're going to have to demolish this grave and this piece of field, which is owned by one of the main guys. So, you know, that's going to happen. It's gentrification. It's what happens. Roads, go through things, and it's shit. Yeah. But obviously the whole village is gutted about this because that's their tourism. That's what they're known for, this little village. It's this little gravestone, and people come here from all over the world to see it.
We turn up in the morning. It's basically one of the lads from the pub. His dad turns up with a load of cement, I think. It's a cement mixer, is it?
Yeah, Eugene. So Eugene and Francie.
Have they bought a place to do up? Is that what they're doing?
No, that's so... Francie is the dad, and Eugene is the son, and the mum died.
Yeah. So he's taking him cement. But why is he taking him cement? What's that for?
So because they work together, but because basically Eugene is doing up the house that his mum died in.
Oh, okay, right.
Francie hasn't set foot in there.
Yeah, so that's why he wants the cement.
Foot in there since the day his wife died, and he won't. So there's a huge divide between father and son, because the son still wants to keep doing up the house, and the father doesn't want anything to do with it, and they've never talked about mum dying. There's loads of unspoken grief and stuff between them. So yeah, the son carries on living at this house.
Dad says, like, how's it going here, blah blah blah, but he says, if you want a job, I've got your job. It doesn't say what job is, but we do, spoiler, we do find out that his dad is basically working on the road, which is going to be
on the bypass,
which nobody likes, but he's at the same time, when you got to do a job sometimes, you got to do a job.
Says to him, this will be good money for you, Eugene, if you want to help me with it. Just bear it in mind.
I'm saying though, but be P. Diddy's bodyguard or security, that's not a job if you got to do a job. Sometimes some jobs you shouldn't do. But this one, unfortunately, might be a situation where, like, there's not much work around. You've got to do some work. There's work here. Let's get 6 months of work.
So
I'm
Eugene,
self-employed. I know where it goes.
Eugene is working on the house and the surrounding buildings. It's like an abandoned farm that his mum had, and he's in the barn, and in the barn there's a hole in the ground, and he's down in the hole in the ground, and he finds in the wall a skull. So he takes it out and he thinks, I wonder what this is, and he sort of keeps it for later to show somebody else that he knows, who's the doctor, who's like the mortician. But then he goes off to a football match because he plays football, just like, amateur football match. Off they go. And him and his buddies see the bodies of that couple being put out of an ambulance into George, who is the local sort of town mortician's place where he will do all the autopsies, etc. So they've already seen, that's weird that the old couple have died. That's weird. And he says, while I'm here, George, I've got this skull. Could you tell me how old this is? And he's like, no, I can't tell you that. I'm not that kind of... I'm a mortician. I can tell how somebody died if they died in the last week. But I can't look at a skull that's a couple of 100 years old. Don't know anything about it.
Worth a try. I wouldn't know who to ask.
Who else is he going to ask in the village? Do you know what I mean? Can't go down... that local policeman ain't going to know anything, is he? He's an idiot. No. I love that policeman, though. Eugene goes and has a shower. And his dad scares him in the shower. He opens up, what are you doing having a shower in my house? He's like, well, I've got no hot water in the house I'm doing up.
Well, he walks up to him with a skull in his face. He opens up, the skull's there.
Scares the shit out of him, as you would.
At this point, though, it's really weird. The dad stays there for a way long time.
I know.
And it's like really, like, it's past awkward to the point of what is going on here. Not saying that he wants to look at his winky, but it's all a bit weird.
Well, his dad ends the scene by saying, well, look, I'll pick you up in the morning to do that job with you, and what are you doing tonight? And he says, I'm just going for one drink in the Stoker with my friends. It'll just be one. Cut to the Stoker, and they're on the absolute raz, aren't they? Having a right old party.
Every person that says just one has more than one.
One is always about 6.
Yeah.
I'm just going for a quick one after work. It's always about 6. So while they're in there, one of their friends, William, reveals he's leaving the village. I'm going to go to Australia traveling. And they're like, oh, all right then, Ponce, you're a bit of a Poncy, you think you're better than all of us, don't you? And he's like, well, I just want to get out of this village and go and see the world. I want to go to Australia. And he's hammered at the end of the night and he can barely stand up. And Eugene says to him, you're going to be all right walking home? How are you getting home? And he says, I'm just going to take a shortcut through that field, where the big vampire grave is. And he says, I better walk you home because I've got a torch. So he walks him home and they're walking through the dark fields and they get into a bit of an argument because they're like best friends and they're going to miss each other and they have a bit of a punch up almost. Then they say, oh, sorry, we didn't really mean that. But out of nowhere, Gav, we hear, look out, it's escaped.
Yeah, it's pretty out of nowhere, really, isn't it? This was, again, actually, this was very much reminding me of Miracle Elf in London. You've got these two people walking through the field night time, and then an incident of a large animal happens.
Yeah, a fucking bull.
Just gouges.
Because he falls. First of all, he falls back against the rocks and he cuts himself on the rock.
Yeah.
And then the bull gouges him and kills him.
Yeah.
This is just freak accident that the bull.
And so the other kid's kind of blamed, isn't he, for bringing him through the field?
Yeah, because George the mortician, that was his son William, who was about to leave for Australia, and he's like, "Oh my God, my boy!" And he looks, but what he doesn't know is that Eugene is looking down at the ground and he sees the blood doing that thing.
But before that, they have a little punch up, and that's where he gets his hand cut on the rocks. He falls backwards.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And that's really what is the catalyst.
And Eugene sees the blood trickle away as he's lying there dead after the bulls gouged him. Cut to funeral.
Well, cut to police and ambulance. So obviously the incident happens, then funeral.
Yeah, and the blood, as I've said, you've got to remember that blood's been trickling away and sort of sucked into the ground. And Eugene's witnessed it. So yeah, the police, the ambulance, etc. And then the funeral, everyone's very sad. And they have a wake in the Stoker. And the barman says to Eugene and his best friend SP, he says, you guys are banned from the Stoker because it's all your fault that he died. I heard you two were pissed and had a bit of a punch up. And he's like, well, it wasn't me, it was the bull. And he's like, no. Your trouble. Get out of my pub. Go and drink somewhere else. But there's nowhere else. Obviously, it's the only pub in the village. So they go and have a drink in the back of a van with some tinnies, and that's where SP sees the skull. And he's like, "What is it?" I just found it in the barn underneath. And he says, "Look, I think I'm going to have to go and work with my dad because, now William's dead. It's all a bit shit. My dad's offered me money to work on this bypass." And SP says, if you work on the bypass, everyone in the village is going to hate you even more than they already do, because you're going to be responsible for tearing through that field, taking out that grave that brings us tourism. Tough. Because the next day, the construction begins on the field. And they're starting to excavate that field.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with the stones? I don't care what you do with them, but I want them knocked down and tossed as soon as possible. Throw them away. So George and Eugene talk a little bit at the rock pile, and he says, are you all right? And he's like, no, I'm not all right, actually. My son died because of you, yeah? And now I've heard that you're going to take down this rock pile, the only thing that brings tourism into this village. So there's huge tension between them. As you can imagine, there would be in a tiny village where there's only a few people and everyone knows each other. Like where you live, Gav, or used to live.
Well, I haven't moved. Moved in a few days.
You will be.
Yeah.
In a few days. Yeah. Gav's moving, everyone. It's exciting times.
That's my last time recording in this place.
Oh.
I'm not that bothered listening to fucking Co-op radio on loop, playing the same songs over, and it gets about 2 minutes in, it fades out, and the next song comes in. It's like, oh my God. Carry on.
So all these sort of construction workers, including Eugene, his dad, a drunk old guy called Charlie, they're all looking at this big pile of rocks, and they're all sort of saying, well, who's going to do it? Oh, I don't want to do it. Because even though it's a legend, one of them actually says, I don't want to accidentally raise a cheeky old vampire so I'm not going to do it. So in the end, Eugene says, all right, I'll do it. So he gets behind the wheel of a JCB and he knocks the stones over. There's a bit of a hole under the ground. So it's begun, Gav. We've opened up the grave and it's nighttime. And Eugene and Claire, his female friend, there's nothing between them. They're just friends, which is quite refreshing. They're having a chat about potentially. Eugene says, well, I might do what William was going to do and I might go to Australia. We'll see. Okay. It turns out his mum died of a freak chainsaw accident.
Okay.
Now that links into the real Abertac legend, which apparently was that there was a tree near the rocks in real life and somebody went to cut the tree down and the chainsaw bounced back off the tree and cut their hand off. Like it's protected by an evil force. That's a real part of the legend I've got to mention. Now they say to Charlie, we're going now, and there's probably going to be protesters coming tonight.
Yeah, basically they've got this old fellow who's a bit of a pisshead.
Well, he gives him a bottle of whiskey as payment.
Yeah, it's like he's going to drink that and fall asleep or wake up in a puddle outside the site. So anyway, they leave this fella here to look after the place. I hope, potentially there might be some protesters, that's it. It's not like he's like mad security.
He's a man in his early 60s. He looks like he couldn't fight a fly.
I worked in a bank a couple of days ago and the security guard there signed to be there with me. Like a company's paid for his to turn up and I did a bit of work. He had a walking stick. I'd say 79.
Oh God!
And it's like I'm all up for giving elderly people jobs, but what the fuck is this guy gonna do if I decided to fucking do something? So I guess it's just opening a door for me because it's like I was like, what the hell? And he walks so slowly, bent over for a walking stick. Weird. Anyway, so this guy, they've got him basically doing the same thing, but instead of a walking stick, he has a bottle of booze.
Paying him in whiskey.
Yeah, and he's going to sit there.
And he sat there, and he sat there, and obviously, they've opened up this grave, so somebody may or may not have come out of the grave.
Yeah, and he hears noise. This is a little bit like I really enjoyed that story in a ghost story. No, ghost. One British one. It was a stage show. I've seen the stage show.
Yeah, a ghost story. I think it's called.
Yeah, it's not the black and white the ghost story.
I know the one you mean with Martin Freeman in it. And...
Yeah. That bit where they got the security guard. That's a good one. Yeah.
So he hears a noise and he thinks it's protesters. He starts shouting, "If you are here to protest, then I got to tell you, you're not going to get anything. You need to leave." Then we, as the audience, see somebody just behind him in the shadows. Nothing. You don't know who it is. And again, this is the vampire that they don't show us until the very end, which is great. But you want to see more of it after you've seen this. And then he goes back in the cabin, and then we just see blood splat all over the window inside the cabin.
Yeah.
So morning comes. The rest of the guys arrive back to carry on working on the field. Oh, the gates are locked. Where's Charlie? Oh, he's probably pissed. Pissed somewhere in a ditch, knowing Charlie. For God's sake. And then they realise that the rock pile is back up. The grave has been rebuilt.
So they must be assuming either protesters come along or Charlie's done it, pissed.
Pissed. I'll just put this back together.
Fuck him. I'm going to do... Or just, I'm just going to put one. I'll do another. Yeah.
So his dad says, look, knock it down again.
They still can't find Charlie.
Let's carry on. We'll try and find Charlie. Night time comes and they still can't find Charlie. And his dad says... Right, Charlie's pissed, take him home. And he goes, no one can find him. And he goes, he's right behind you. And there he is.
And he's all weird.
He's all sort of...
Dad's obviously assuming that he's pissed.
So he gets him in the van, Eugene, and he's driving the van. And Charlie goes to bite him.
Well, we're set up and the lad's like, I'll fucking take him home, whatever. I put him in the car. And the dad's like, all right, thinking he's just pissed, whatever. You fucked up hiring him. That's your fuck up,
Yeah.
So just drives off and just drives straight into one of the forklift trucks. Like straight in. They're like, what the fuck, I run over? And his dad's like, what the hell are you doing?
He says, you fucked up the van, Eugene.
And he's like, he tried to bite me. He's like, what? And then he gets out and then it all... At this point now, we're in a horror movie.
And then the floodlights all go out because they've got these big floodlights on the field. Gabriel is snatched. So one of the characters, Gabriel...
That classic...
Now the girl, Claire, she instantly suspects something here because she's like, "What do you mean he tried to bite you? Where did he try and bite you? On the neck?" So she's already thinking. She's like George Clooney, Dust to Dawn. She's like, "Look, I might not believe in them, but it sounds like we've got a fucking vampire situation here." You know what I mean? Her brain's already going there. Plus, all the floodlights have gone out.
My note says, "Try to bite you." Then Dad interrupts like a cunt. It's my note, but I don't know why.
Wow.
Is his dad a bit cunty in it?
A little bit. A little bit grumpy. They find Gabriel's body, and he's got a wound on his neck. Of course he has. Claire finds Charlie, and so she uses the measuring pole with a big spike on the end that Francie, the dad, has just bought, and she stabs it through him, and he sees Charlie with a pole sticking out of him, still walking at them. And rather than sort of say, "Oh my God, he's undead" or anything, he says, "Is that my new pole?" He's really angry that his pole has been used. So yes, perhaps he is a bit cunty. But Charlie continues to come at them. At this point, we get a Shaun of the Dead total sort of scene really now where, come on everybody, doom dee doom dee 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 doom dee doom, where they're all sort of trying to kill Charlie and pull the pole out of
Buddy
him.
Holly.
Yeah, and then they push him into a hole in the ground, and then there's a cool as fuck scene where he pulls his body up with a pole in it, like climbs back out of the hole.
That was quite good, yeah.
Really cool.
They're doing it behind them as they're talking.
And he says, the dad, Francie, says, "For fuck's sake, he must be on that crack or something." And he's like, "Dad, I don't think this is drugs."
Yeah,
Look at him.
I remember. Okay, now I remember this film. A lot of it, the gore and stuff and those sequences are really good, but the action and tension sequences are not very good. Like the way these have been shot, I felt there's a lot of wide, like shots of seeing them all, and I wanted more sort of close up for the action and real tension. Do you know what I mean? Real tighter shots. And I remember going, it's kind of really good hit of gore, but yeah, it's just not as intense as it could be. But you probably enjoying it. You're probably just going with it, I'm sure.
Well, Claire eventually uses the JCB to bury him under loads of dirt.
Were you just going with it?
Was I?
Yeah. Did you not? Because the action sequence.
No, it didn't take me out of it.
Okay.
Because I was just so excited because it was a fresh take on the vampire legend, but done in a.
Oh no! Just these sequences here, just this here. I didn't feel the action was done well enough, and then this was going on.
I thought it was good. So.
Okay.
Okay, in hindsight, now you're saying that? Yeah, okay, I can see what you mean.
There's a lot of wide shots where it should have been a lot tighter, and I don't know why they weren't.
It's not an Abigail type vampire or 30 Days of Night type action scenes, but
yeah.
I felt for the small town setting, it worked.
Oh yeah, it was really just this sequence here.
And I will name check 30 Days of Night because this does feel a lot like an Irish 30 Days of Night in some ways, although it takes place at one night. This film feels like a bit of a mix of Near Dark and 30 Days of Night in some ways. And when you've seen this, guys, you'll perhaps understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Claire buries Charlie under dirt and he's still coming at them. So they put the stones on top of him like they did to Abertac in the legend. And Eugene says, "Look, I've got to tell you all, I saw the blood the night that William died. I saw the blood being drained into the ground like something was sucking it in." And the dad's like, "Are you telling me you think there's a vampire? You telling me you think Abertac's real?" And then Charlie's foot sticks out the ground and he's still coming at them. And he says, a fucking vampire on my work site. His dad's just angry. He's like a typical foreman, just angry that he doesn't care what the thing is. It's on my work site.
Yeah, another thing, I don't want to comment on it, but another thing, like, I bet on paper, the dialogue, some of the gags are pretty good, but it didn't really make me laugh, and I was like, oh, I bet on paper it came across a lot funnier, do you know what I mean? And some of the delivery of the actors, I think the comedy could have been a bit better.
I do think it's worth a watch when you're not reviewing it, this one.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, with the other one, I've seen it. With this one, I was thinking, as we started talking about it, I was thinking, I wouldn't mind watching it again, not looking at my iPad, taking notes down, being critical of the film, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the nearest house is George's house, the mortician who lost his son William. So they go there and they knock on the door, and they just all barge into his house. And the wife, who's lost her son, obviously, is sat in the chair. Pauline, she's just staring into space. She's not talking. She's not saying anything. And they basically say to him, look, something crazy's going on in the field. Maybe a vampire. We don't know. But we're going to take your Land Rover now, George. And he's like, oh, no, I'm not really going to be able to stop you, am I? And when they get in the Land Rover cab, they find an empty bottle. And they think, well, this is Charlie's bottle. What's going on then? Has someone been here? Who's been in this house? And Eugene goes back into the house, and he goes in and checks the morgue drawers. He finds a dead dog that's been nibbled on. And then George pulls a rifle on him.
Yeah.
And he says, great line here, he says, I need you to leave my house, otherwise you'll find out the terrible truth. So he's hiding something. And he says, you know the good room, which is like a room for like that they have in a morgue, where you can go and pray and have some faith. He says, you know the good room, and I always told you to stay out of it. It's time for you to go and have a look at what's in there. So Eugene goes, and the door's been barred up, and William is in there, undead. The man that was killed in the field at the beginning has been kept by his dad behind bars as a vampire.
Yep. And
it's horrible, not nice, but he doesn't know what to do. It's kind of like Brain Dead, but serious. He's like, I don't know what to do. He won't die.
We do sort of, he explains what happened, and you have a sort of flashback to when he was his son died.
Yeah.
And him being like, I want to do it, basically saying he wanted to do the autopsy with his wife there, going, oh no, but the acting on the wife here is really fucking good. This woman just saying, she's basically pleading him not to do it. It's such good acting. It really stuck out. I was like, that person's a really good actor.
Because considering they just showed that his son's a vampire, just before he goes into this backstory, they're all looking like, and you can hear screaming, and as everyone discovers Williams is vampire, and then George just goes, cup of tea, which basically means, I'll tell you what happened. So yeah, he brought the body home to do the prep for the funeral, and realised he wasn't dead, he was undead. And it's because of the stones. The stones are what turns you. It's not teeth. All the legends are wrong. It's actually the stones of this vampire's grave that will turn you. They're sharp. And if they cut you, that's what happens. We get a little cutaway scene of two kids smoking weed. And they see someone in the distance. And he's like, whatever you're looking for, pervert, we're just friends. We're not... Nothing's going to happen. And then his stitches and his neck burst. She's like, what's happening? And all his blood starts pouring out of a recent injury on his neck, and heads towards this person in the shadows. Again, it's so cool that we...
Yeah.
Why haven't we ever seen this before in a vampire film?
Don't know.
It's really cool. Excuse me. So yeah, we found out what happened. So he kept William in the room. He didn't want to kill him. We didn't know how to kill him. So he went off and he got Charlie. He actually brought Charlie to William and kind of fed him to his son. And so... Charlie wasn't killed by Abertak. He was killed actually by George. It was George that was lurking in the background. He was doing that for his son. He starts crying. And again, the acting, he says, I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. And starts crying. It's like, my God, where's all this drama coming from? It's amazing. What happens next? Oh, Francie just leans over because his son's going, Dad, give him some sympathy. He just gives him a little pat on the shoulder, like, you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he won't. His son's an undead vampire locked in the room in the house, but there we go. Yeah. So we get that George Clooney scene again now. Right. How do we kill vampires? What do we know about them? Sunlight, stakes. So SP's like the big beardy guy. He's like, well, we could get some stakes. I could make some stakes out of loads of wood. So they just start like going straight in like that Dusk Till Dawn. We might not believe in them, but it's real. So we better deal with it. And I love that. I just love it in films where they just embrace the batshit, like whether it's a werewolf, a vampire, zombie. And they're like, this is the situation.
Yeah, this is what we've got to deal with. Here's the plan.
Yep. So they say, right, we've tried everything. We tried burying him under stones. What about decapitation? Or how do we know that'll work? Let's try it on William. So Francie says to Georgie, what kind of tools have you got in your shed? And they set up this, like, basically the corridor. They put loads of metal frames and fences down it. And the plan is to let William out of the room, let him run down the corridor, and for his dad to behead him with an axe to see if that works and kills him as a vampire. But also, he's going to have to behead his own undead son.
Yeah.
Pretty full on. So he's got the axe, and Eugene is the bait. He lets him out, and he starts coming out down the corridor towards him. And he goes, come on, get me, come on. I'm the reason you died, come on. But Mum stands up.
I know.
And says, come to your dear old mummy.
And just gets bitten.
She gets bitten. It's really sad. So they all run and get in the Land Rover. George manages to shoot his undead son and says, goodbye, son. And then his son kills him. And the policeman wakes up. And he goes, oh yeah, forgot to mention, there's a really inept policeman in this village. And when they first get into George's house and they've seen the vampire, they ring him up.
They did. And he says, oh really, you should ring 999.
He said, if you've got an emergency, it's 999. But what is it? He's like, look, there might be someone in the village acting shady, keeping to the shadows, up to no good, basically. He says, what does he look like? And he says, tall and dark-skinned. And he's like, that's not a crime in this village. We're very welcoming in this village. And he says, no, look, just promise me you'll look out for them. But he does.
Are you about to say when a policeman pisses blood?
Yeah. So the next shot is of the policeman.
What does that remind you of? Reminded me of bloody
Shadow of Death.
Yeah. The other Dan.
And I knew it was coming because he gets up in the middle of the night, and we know that this vampire can pull blood out of your body without even having to be near you. And he starts weird, but the stream of urine goes bright red.
Oh.
And he looks down, as any man would if he saw that, and goes,
I've only once had this, and I was actually in the doctor's doing a urine sample, so I was like, I'm in the right place.
Jesus Christ. So William starts hunting for them around the house because they're still in George's house, and they've got a really good plan here because he goes into the room full of bodies, this vampire, and he starts looking like, where are they? And he opens the morgue drawers, and in there is SP with a nail gun who nails him a couple of times, and then they chuck him in a coffin and they manage to nail it shut. However, sadly, SP has been very badly injured in the rib section. He's got like a great big gash with his guts hanging out. And he sat there with it like a hero, Gav. He sat there with a can of beer, drinking his last drink, about to die, isn't he? He says, my dad always said I'd die on the sofa with a beer in my hand. Looks like he's right. And he dies. Eugene takes a sip of his beer and he says, this is all my fault, so I'm going to fix it. His dad snaps him out of it. He says, well, let's do this together then. So they carry the wriggling coffin outside and put it in a hole.
Yep.
And this is where you get the shot you mentioned earlier, Gav, of the town. The town now has been decimated. Something is working its way through this town. And you can see literally the trail of where it's been, because all the blood is being drained out. There's people lying in the gutters. There's blood coming out of people's doors and letterboxes, and it's all leading somewhere.
Right, the barman gets it, doesn't he?
The barman's there. He gets a nosebleed. He collapses. Everyone in the pub does. And we then see the old couple from the start.
Yeah. So basically, a nice way of just showing us what happened.
Yeah, it catches back up. So we're down to Claire, Francis, and Eugene now, driving a big sort of JCB truck thing through the town. They're on a mission. They go and see Claire's mum, who's bleeding. She's collapsed. And everywhere they go, they're like, there's people everywhere. Blood's everywhere. Where's this blood flowing to? It's flowing to the barn where he found the skull.
Yeah.
That's kind of the nest, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the nest, like where it keeps its food, basically. And they see someone collecting the blood. Well, we as the audience see somebody in the blood collecting in the darkness. Probably our first glimpse of Abertac, would you say? Just about see him, don't you, in the darkness? So Francie enters his dead wife's house that he hasn't been in since she died, and they have this kind of chat. They both miss her. There's a bit I didn't get where Eugene looks at a picture on the wall and it's got like a certificate, and he said, "Oh, Mum's surname is," and I don't know if that was supposed to say that she's somehow related to the Abertac legend. I don't know. Elizabeth. I didn't really get that bit, I must say. That was a bit confusing for me, and I even tried to look into it, like in the trivia and stuff. I couldn't find anything out about that. And then there's a really funny moment where the dad leans forward, and Eugene thinks, "Oh, he's first hug with my dad in years." And his dad goes, "Whoa, what are you doing? I was just gonna shut the window. What? Jesus Christ! What do you think this is?" His dad's such a horrible old git, isn't he?
Yeah.
But then he's not, because he punches his son to knock him out, to hide him.
Yeah, he does do that.
Under a sheet. So although he's punched him, he's doing it to help him. And Abertac comes into the house and quite quickly is beheaded by Francie.
Straight away, which is just like, oh, okay, but
let's discuss.
Obviously, the vampires can come back.
Let's discuss Abertac, because how's he looking, Gav? What's he sort of describe him to us? He's he's a bit like the Crow in a way. He's got that kind of gothic sort of slender, like the Crow meets Nosferatu almost. He's kind of, but also a bit zombie-ish.
I don't think they got. Oh yeah, there's a picture.
Describe him to us.
It's like a Walking Dead zombie.
Yeah, I suppose he is. He looks like...
It looks... Okay, you know, like back in the day when you did history, and then they show you, like, the classic body found, and it was all, like, spinning tar or a swamp.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that kind of really skinny, brown, leathery kind of look to the skin. That's what it looks like, but kind of real... Walking Dead. See, the picture I'm looking at is obviously a publicity picture, and it's got light above it, so it's really showing it. Totally different though, really. That looks really good, but when they've done it, they haven't put it in the light. Maybe a bit of moonlight bouncing off it, but they've lit it really well in the movie and makes it look really good. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just having it at the end is the best thing to have, because otherwise you'd have to show a bit more. But I don't know. It does look so good, but it looks really good here. But it looks like a zombie here.
It's a great vampire. And there's an amazing scene now, one of my favourite scenes actually, which again, I probably never seen this before that I can think of this specifically. After Francie's beheaded Abertac, he goes over to wake up his son, and he says, "I got him, son, don't worry, it's all right." And behind in the background, you see the head sliding along the floor.
Yeah,
the hand of the body grabs it and slips it back on the neck.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, and it looks so good as well. And it's just in the background as well, so that, you know, they can get away with wires or however they did it, you know.
And they sort of shot it quite low to the ground at times. It made it feel very much like Dog Soldiers looking in height.
And again, that's another film that this feels a little bit like Dog Soldiers. It's got that gritty, earthy, you know, roughness to it.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, Dad gets chopped in the leg by Abertac now, because not only is he a vampire that can pull your blood out of your body, he's also got a fucking axe now. Picks up an axe and he chops Dad, Francie, in the leg. So they sort of run off as best they can, although his dad's got like half his leg has been almost severed off. They run. How do they get out the window, Gav?
I don't know.
Something we've all wanted to do as kids when you walk past the building site.
Out.
There's a rubble chute.
Oh, yeah. They jump down it, don't they?
And they go down it, and it's exactly as you'd imagine. Ow, ow, ow. Bang on the floor at the bottom. My kids, there's a house near me that was being worked on for about 3 months. Every morning we go past it on the way to nursery school, and they'd always go, Daddy, when can we go on that slide?
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, well, there's rocks at the bottom of it and a big...
There you go, Jack.
And And he's broken all his bones.
So the sun's coming up as well.
Yes, so the sun's coming up.
Obviously, for us traditionalists, we're like, oh, that's good. They're safe.
Yes, so they go to hide in the barn, hoping that they will lure the vampire into the sunlight.
One of them fucking falls into the hole in the shit. But for fuck's sake, guys.
Yeah, but his leg's almost been cut off. He's not very good on his...
All right. He's hobbling.
So Francie falls into the hole.
The sun doesn't kill the vampire at all, so that's great. They've changed it. It's like, oh, shit.
Well, when he walks into the sunlight...
It's more demon or something. Really.
Eugene just goes, in typical Irish fashion, you just can't kill this cunt, can you?
Yeah, it looks decent as well.
He looks great. So Eugene jumps into the hole with his dad.
I do think, though, they should have made this movie, this dude, I am thinking again now, the threat all along. Do you know what I mean? He should, the vampire thing should have been the Jason Voorhees, I think.
He does a fucking cool thing here, Gav. He's still got an axe, this vampire. Did you realise what he was doing with the axe when he jumped down in the hole with them? So he's underneath the barn and he's banging this axe against the metal girders holding up the floor underneath this barn. What he's doing is he's using it as echolocation.
Oh.
So I realised he was banging it and he was tilting his head and he's listening for the sounds to bounce back.
It's like a Descent creature.
A little bit.
With a Walking Dead creature.
But don't forget, vampires can turn into bats that have echolocation, so it's taken very small elements of vampire lore.
Yeah. So the vampire's coming towards him, jumps in the hole where they are, but this is a really weird choice. Pulls his dad's leg off to stab him. Didn't need to do that. That's a bit much. I'm sure there's another thing. It's only a bit of bone stabs him. I'm sure there must have been something else could stabbed him. It's just, at what point now do you go, Jackie Chan never looks around the room and thinks, a limb. There's a body, I'll take the limb
I'm trying
off.
to think if he's ever used a limb.
Used a limb. Jackie Chan hasn't. Jackie Chan's more resourceful than using body parts for weapons.
He might have used a prosthetic leg, I think.
But that's all right. I'm happy with that.
Well, basically, his dad says, look, it's hanging off anyway. Pull it off.
He doesn't. He just does it, and his dad's like, whoa.
No, his dad says, go on, do it. Yeah, do it.
Well, and how does he know what his dad's thinking? Is in like, what weapon can we use, son? Obviously, the bone in my leg.
My leg, it's the only way.
It's not the only way. It's silly.
So he pulls it off and he uses his really sharp thigh bone, that really thick bone, to impale the vampire.
Such a weird choice.
So this vampire's now got a leg sticking out of his chest. And then they pull loads of earth down on top of him.
I have a massive issue coming up soon later on, but yes, about what happened just then with the leg, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Loads of stones and earth buried on top of him, and then all the townspeople wake up and they're all okay.
Everybody's waking up, so it's just
what's
like
going on?
Village of the damned or some shit. I don't know.
So the father and son bond again.
Okay, right, here we go. This is my problem. So we cut to the morning and the dad comes out.
Well, hang on, before that.
Sorry.
Claire finds him in the hole. She drops the ladder down and helps them get out. And then, 3 months later.
So it's like from waist up, dad's talking to the kid. And the dad comes out and just kind of hobbles off like he has a walking stick or something. What? Hang on, you pulled his leg off.
Yeah, he's got a prosthetic leg.
No, you don't see any of it. It's from a waist up.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have been able to afford...
What? But... What? A prosthetic... You don't see the prosthetic leg when you walk on. People still with prosthetic legs wear a pair of trousers and just walk along. It's such a weird choice. Or have him in the car talking to his dad and someone drives him away. Why all of a sudden, waist up, he's just walking along? You had your leg ripped off and put into a vampire to kill it. So I had issues there, but sorry, that's very petty of me. But it's just like, what are you doing?
It didn't really ruin it for me.
It didn't ruin it. It didn't ruin it.
I guess
it
would have been cool to start with a shot of a foot and then a prosthetic, like a peg leg,
and then go up or something and go, oh, he's all right now. Yeah, it was just really weird.
Just to sell it a bit, I guess. In hindsight,
but again, I think it's the bloody filmmaker in me. I reckon over the 10 years we've been podcasting, because I've been doing filmmaking more and more and more, I've probably got more and more fucking, you should do this. Do you know what I mean? That's, Gav, you're not directing the film, you're reviewing it.
Well, back in the pub as well, Claire and Eugene are discussing Dracula and the history, and he's like, he's never read Dracula. Now he's read it all since this incident, and he knows all the history of Bram Stoker. And she's the one leaving for Australia So she's going to do what William and then Eugene thought he might do. And he says, I'm going to carry on doing the house up. And when you come back from Australia, you can stay over. I'll cook you dinner. There'll be hot running water and everything. She's like, I'll hold you to that. You'll still be doing it up, I guarantee. He's like, nah, it'll be done in a year when you get back. Did you hear what was on the jukebox when they said goodbye?
Was it the same track from earlier?
Nope.
What was it?
It was Dokkens, song by Dokken.
I've never done it.
You know the song. It's from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Dream Warriors.
Oh, really?
That was playing on the jukebox. That was so cool. No reason.
I don't know if I would have known the song, but
you would know Dream Warriors from the Freddie. I was going to say from Freddie Mercury, Freddy Krueger. Jesus, it'd be older.
Don't do that again. Right, basically, I'm making a music video in the next week or so where Mark's dressed as Freddy Krueger. This is so weird. It keeps happening to me. It's the third time now. Mark's dressed as Freddy Krueger doing housework, and I'm doing it in the I Want to Break Free, where Freddie Mercury's dressed as a woman doing housework, and I'm copying that. I went to the comic convention. There was two models right next to each other for no reason. Freddie Mercury and Freddy Krueger models just next to each other. And then Monday night, I'm at the premiere of a music video we made for someone. Ben sends me a picture right between me and him, just Freddie Mercury, just a picture behind us, big picture. It's like, what is going on? And you've just said that, got Freddie Mercury and Freddy Krueger mixed up. Weird, but that's the music video I'm making in the next couple of weeks.
Well, the film ends with Eugene and his dad Francie working together to do the house up. However, Eugene also, his new job is kind of to keep an eye on Abertat's grave, which is now under the barn. So whenever he can, he adds a few more rocks and a few more bits of stone to the pile. But what you don't see is as he gets out the barn and shuts the doors, they've also, for precautions, I don't know if you noticed this, did you see what was on the walls? There's loads of stakes and swords and knives and guns all on the inside of the barn. So just in case something goes wrong, they've got all the weapons.
Now from dusk till dawn.
Yeah, and that's the end.
Yeah. I think I like this. It's a weird one there. It must be a really underrated movie. I think the issue with this is I don't think that name does it any justice. I think that name should have been something different, and I think more people would have picked up on this.
I agree. I said at the beginning, jokingly, it sounds like a Western.
It sounds like it could be a comedy drama. It doesn't
be anything.
You don't think it's a vampire homage to vampire movies?
I don't know what a better title would be. Abertac, no one would know what that is, really, unless you really knew the Irish legend. You know, it would do well in Ireland, and I think this world does do very well in Ireland.
They could just call it an Irish vampire story.
Yeah, I don't know. There'll be definitely something that you could call it, but I agree the title is a bit weird. And it's only got a 5.9 on IMDb. But
I just don't think it's. I don't think anyone knows it. I didn't know of it.
I've told so many people about it since watching it.
I'm sure after our review, some people will check it out. I'm going to recommend this one higher than the other one.
Me too. This gets an 8 out of 10 from me.
I still give it 8 out of 10. You have your bloody
Why not?
ratings. It's not 8 out of 10.
Why is 8 high? I give films 9 and 10s. This is an 8.
I think 8 and up is high.
This is a 3.5 out of 5.
I'll give this a 7.
Why are you laughing at me for saying 8 though?
8.
I don't laugh at you for saying 7.
You can laugh at me if I say 7.
I don't laugh at you when you give a film 3 out of 10.
I think it's because I'm so used to you saying 8 for most things.
No. I give Extraordinary gets 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. This is an 8 because on a rewatch of this, I should imagine it might drop down to a 7. But right now, I've seen it once, absolutely loved it. It felt really, really original. It had some great humour in there. And I preferred this to Extraordinary, which was too, in my opinion, a little bit too quirky. This is a little bit more grounded. And although it's about vampires, and that sounds weird to say, it just feels a little bit more grounded. The other one was a bit too quirky for me. The comedy was a bit, but I still really enjoyed it. But this is just like one of the better vampire films I've seen, a new vampire film. And I genuinely feel like it's got elements of Dog Soldiers, 30 Days of Night, and Near Dark in it, but with an original twist on vampires.
It's a decent vampire film.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic.
I think I know what it is. You and I obviously are different people. Isn't that weird? Everybody's different.
How many times do you give a 10 out of 10?
That's what I'm about to say to you.
You never do. What's the point of having a 10 out of 10 if you never... That's what I always say to people. No, don't shush me. I've got my right to say my thing. What's the point in having a score out of 10 if you never give a 10?
Yeah, I very rarely do, but I do. But for me, like, you know, I don't know, say 8 for me is probably like Apocalypse Now. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. So for me, 8's really high.
What would you give Ghostbusters 1?
Probably a 9. I don't know what I've given 10. See, 10 for me, I don't know.
You can find out.
It's got to be my favourite movies.
If you go on IMDb and go to your ratings and filter by top
I'll
to
have
bottom,
to see.
You can find out. But Ghostbusters, for example, is a 10 for me. Yeah. Because it's a perfect film, in my opinion.
So that's why. So for 8 for me, it's really high. That's why we're different. That's why.
But a 7, if you're giving this a 7...
But I'd give it 7. I think it's pretty
That's
decent.
really strong for you.
Yeah, there's some really good bits. Like there's a couple of bits I feel like
for a film,
a bit tighter.
For a film that only came out a couple of years ago that you've never seen before, that is high praise for you to give this a 7. And I'm being genuine when I say that, because I do generally score up more than you. But for a 7 out of 10 for the first time watch, and considering it's got 5.9 on IMDb, we both say it's a lot higher than that. I definitely recommend it to people, and I think more people should see this. What did you give The Substance?
Don't know. Probably a 9.
Yeah, me too. I gave that a 9.
I'm trying to see how I do this.
You go to your ratings.
I am. I'm at them, but I don't.
And then you just filter by
your rating.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it'll tell you.
Oh yeah, okay.
So tell me what a couple of films you've given a 10 to.
Oh, for fuck's sake. No, I can't.
You definitely can. Because I do it often to look at what I've given, like a 1.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know how to choose that. So this is a boring conversation for the listeners.
Well, there we go. But anyway, we both really like this. Between us, we give it a 7.5.
Jaws.
You know what? That's what we should do.
I've given it a 10.
Jaws is a 10. Of course it is, yeah.
Oh, Ghostbusters is a 10.
There we go.
Halloween, first one's a 10.
I'd give that.
That's probably in. Actually, I'd probably change it now. I don't know.
I wouldn't give that a 10. I'd give it like an 8.5 to 9.
Oh, I've got to change that. I gave Guardians of the Galaxy a 10. Why? I must have been. Because I was really excited when I first saw that movie.
When you come out of the cinema, that's why I always say.
First movie we watched in the cinema.
That's why I always say the first time I rate something, I'm always going to rate it higher, and I like to revisit stuff because I know I'm going to. Yeah, that's a 10 for me as well.
Got Big Lebowski.
No, I don't. I'd give that like a 7, 6.
And then I'm down to 9. And it's like One Cut of the Dead. See, the thing should be a 10, and that's a 9. So I need to change that.
There we go. Well, there we go. You can do it. So there we go. So what we can say then is let's put our votes together, and it's 7.5 out of 10, which is really high, Holly. And both of these films are great. And if you've never seen either of them, I recommend them both. Well, hopefully we both do. They are very different. One of them is a quirky, lighthearted, supernatural romp with a little bit of satanic stuff towards the end. And the other one is a very gory original vampire tale with a great vampire design.
Yep.
And a really original way of sucking blood. And you've got to see it. You've got to see it to believe it. It's just like, it sounds whack, really, with like blood trickling on the ground. But they've done a great job. They've spent the money well on Boys from County Hell.
But I think a better name would give it a better service.
Yeah, we'll have to have a scratch of a head to what that would think. Like,
No, I have an Irish vampire tale.
No, that sounds whack. That sounds whack. It'll be something like the trouble is the place it's weird. It's called County Hell, yeah. But then the place they live is 6 Mile Hill. So what's that about? Like, it's got nothing to do. They don't live in County Hell.
No.
What they should have called it is It Came from the Barn. Well, that's already a film, you know. I don't know. I don't know what, but
yeah.
Blood Bloodlands. You know what I mean?
Let's stop. We're
Blood
not having.
Roots.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, listeners, check it out if you haven't seen it.
Go
It's worth a
watch it.
Let's come back to the outro. And we're back again. So, Holly, thank you so much for your movies, your picks, your support. Different ones.
Yeah, really good, and especially to get some Irish stuff thrown in there as well, which I know would mean a lot to you and some of our Irish listeners, Rachel and Big Dino and some of you other guys out there across the pond in the north and the south. So hopefully we did those justice. We like them both. I know you were worried that we would like them both, and we did. They're very different films, but they're both great. But especially Boys from County Hell, that's a really good original vampire film for me. We just don't like the name as much for some reason. We were discussing that off air then. We still haven't come up with a good title, but let's move away from that. Holly, it's time for you to return the crown. Thank you. Pop that back in the box till next time. Some sound effects there. And yeah, I hope that was great for you, Holly. Thanks again for all your messages and your support. I'm glad you got your DVD. I sent Holly the 2-disc special edition of Razorblade Smile because I had to buy it. It was the only way to watch it when we reviewed it for her a year or so ago. So there we go. So that was episode 165. A couple of Irish comedy horrors there. Gav, you're never going to guess what's next.
No, I can't remember.
Ding 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 ding. It's our Halloween special.
What are we doing?
Episode 166. It's the franchise face-off.
Oh, okay, I remember.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of these Nightmare movies. Sorry, Nightmare fans.
And Halloween 5. The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Oh, this is where we start going into silly territory with the Halloween movies.
1989, both of them. So these franchises weirdly mirrored each other's release years for a lot. But yeah, that'll be the 5th time we've revisited those that franchise. So yeah, I'm looking for. I enjoy going through those.
Yeah, Nightmare movies. It's worth for myself going back through them and hopefully meeting Robert Englund next year. You might be there as well. Well, hopefully, you never know, ladies and gentlemen. I might be doing a live podcast. I need to find out about
I'm going to get him to say, "Where do you keep the bourbon, bitch?"
Yes. So it's worth checking them out. I think really. And the Halloween movies. Yeah, I guess it's worth reviewing them because we start going. This is going to be going into the Man in Black.
I mean, I've got to say,
he's the Man in Black, isn't it, in this?
I think that's in the next one, isn't it?
Oh, is it the next one?
Yeah, this has still got Danielle Harris in it.
Yeah, but I still think, I think this is Man in Black.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's where all of a sudden they're just like, we're just going to do this. And it's like, who is this character? Don't know. And we never find out ever again.
He's like the bounty hunter from that Jason movie. He just shows up like with a cannibal hat on. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? But yeah. I've got to say, number 4, when we reviewed it last year, was actually all right. The 4th Halloween movie.
The 4th Halloween movie's all right, though, yeah. But now we are going into silly territory.
Whereas with the Freddys, I fucking love them. I don't care. Like 3, 4, 5. They're obviously 2, 3 is probably 3 and 1 are my favourites, and I really like 2 for various reasons. It's such a strange and unique film, but I love them because they remind me of my childhood at the Freddys with the special effects and the dream sequences. So I just love seeing where we go with Freddy each time. There's always pop cultural references that are of that time within them, so that'll be fun to look at.
The costumes being, my friend who the music video has been made for is in Africa, in Ghana, and so the costumes being sent to my parents, and my parents keep ringing me up saying, "Oh, there's another parcel here for you," and my mum's like, "It's a jumper and something." It's like Freddy Krueger's jumper because he's getting a really good costume and stuff. I was like, "Yeah, it's going to turn up in parts." Yeah.
That's gonna be good.
Ah, he is in Ghana too.
So that's our next episode, our Halloween episode 166. After that, just to keep the Halloween spirit alive, just as we enter November, 167, we're going to be looking at The Exorcist 2, The Heretic from 77, and The Exorcist 3 from 1990. So we'll be rounding up the original Exorcist films. We won't probably really be covering any of those weird prequels. And
I'm glad at that point I will be, because I'm moving on Monday, and at that point I should be able to get my movie collection out. I've got the Exorcist box set. I've never seen the second film.
It's crazy.
I'm not a big Exorcist fan, to be honest, but the third one I do like.
Yeah.
I like that over the
two
first
is
one.
Great. But
I've never seen it, so I'm going to be really... Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea what to expect.
Take it off for you, then. It'd be fun to take it off. I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10, knowing me.
Yeah.
Shall I tell you what I've given The Exorcist 2? Let me have a look.
And I'll probably be really negative.
I'll tell you now. Hang on. I give it...
Hold attention, listeners.
I know, I'm going to have to move it.
Drum rolled.
4 out of 10 I've given it.
Okay. Shit. Okay.
But
I don't know nothing about it.
That'd be episode 167.
Okay.
And then...
Oh, shit. Patreon.
Episode 168 is Rachel's Patreon pig. And Rachel and me are discussing at the moment what she'll be deciding for us to cover.
Give us your favourite films, Rach.
Just pick.
Just your favourite films. A couple of movies you love.
Watching?
We'll just talk about them for you.
A comfort blanket.
Simples.
Science fiction, horror, dark,
just
something. But anyway, I'll keep pressing the buttons, and she'll give me some picks soon.
Right.
So that's the next 3. We've got Halloween special, then the Exorcist franchise roundup, and then Rachel's patron pick. So stick with us, guys. It's going to be fun. Halloween October continues. Fun times ahoy!
Ahoy!
Really enjoyed Boys from County Hill.
Boys from County Hill.
Boys from County Hill.
Need a better name.
It's really stuck with me, and I'll definitely be watching it again, I think. But there we go. Let's do some housekeeping, and then we can say our goodbyes to everybody. Are you ready for that, Gav?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad you are. So, as always, we are the podcast on Haunted Hill, and have been for 10 years, a proud member of the Legion Podcast Network. We're also under the Deadbolt Media umbrella. More about that in just a moment. We are on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and type in the podcast on Haunted Hill, you will find our Facebook page, which is super active this month. It always is every October, where everybody posts up what they're watching daily or weekly or whatever it is you want to do, but it's always active anyway, so do come and join us over there. Legion also has its own Facebook page as well. Again, it's just Legion Podcasts, and that's where you can find all the other shows that are on the network. If you want to know more about Legion, go to legionpodcast.com. That's where you can find all our episodes historically and all the other shows. And you can email me and Gav directly. Our email address is thepodcastonhauntedhill@outlook.com to email us with any questions or queries or any questions, medical questions we can help you with. We're trained doctors.
Probably put our hand at some of them.
Wherever you listen to us now is where you can continue to listen to us. We're on all the usual podcast platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Podknife, Podbean, Apple, Podcast Addict, etc. And we're on Instagram. If you want to follow us, it's the Podcast on Haunted Hill Insta, all one word. We use it mainly just to promote the shows, but we always chuck a link into the episodes, so that's another way you can find us as well. Talking about Deadbolt Media, Deadbolt Films is our production company. We have a website, deadboltfilms.com. We have a YouTube channel. Just search for Deadbolt Films, or you can ask us if you're unsure. You can always instant message me, by the way, on Facebook. I'm usually quite quick at replying to people. And we're on Instagram with Deadbolt. It's just Deadbolt Films, all one word. And you can find out more about the comics that we've done and produced and published. You can find out more about the short films, the feature films that we've done and are working on, the music videos.
Yeah. we're really busy. I'd say, if anything, the best way to follow is actually Instagram. If you're on Instagram, go on there. The Deadbolt is the most up-to-date thing, because I'm actually in charge of it, and when we're out and about and doing stuff, I snap pictures and I get people to send me pictures, and I try and do a post when we do stuff. We're really active at the moment in a lot of things, so we're kind of interested. We're trying to get the name out there, like and we're going to set up a mailing list and stuff, and we're doing a lot of comics, we're doing music videos, we're making a new film, we've got a couple of films in the pipeline which are going to come out soon, so we're super busy doing shit. So we need people following us, and actually because we're like a collective doing those stuff, and obviously podcasts, and
Yeah, because I also do a podcast with my lovely Sarah called The High Strangers. Oh, hang on a minute. Whoa. That's not me. That's you.
I wasn't taking that in. I do a podcast called The High Strangers with my lovely Sarah. We talk about weird and strange things. But recently I got a Deadbolt tattoo.
You did, yeah.
Of the logo. First one I am to do it, but the others are coming.
Your last episode of The High Strangeness I had to have Google on standby to Google all the images as I was listening to it.
Oh, really?
It was about body modifications, and I wanted to see. I'd seen a lot of the people that was discussed, but there was a few of them on there I hadn't seen. I was like, what the fuck are these people doing to their bodies? It's pretty mental. But yeah, that was Gab's last episode, was about extreme body modification. And surgery. And finally, we are our patron as well. So if you'd like to support the show financially and help us continue to move forward and buy equipment and rent films and buy films that we need to keep things ticking over, then we'd really appreciate it. Just go over to Patreon and search for the podcast on Haunted Hill. If you can't find it, just message me on either Facebook or that email address, which again is the podcast on Haunted Hill at outlook.com. If you become a patron to the show, not only will you get your shout out at the end of each show, but you'll also get a free t-shirt sent out to wherever you are in the world. You'll get perks like your patron pick. Every 3 episodes, one of our patrons, in order rotation, gets to pick the 2 films that we review and tell us why and send a message or whatever, basically wear the crown for the episode. You also get access to any exclusive content via Patreon, as well as our entire back catalogue. We release one of our old shows every Freaky Friday, although we're almost up to date now.
But it's a hub to where you can get every episode.
Yeah, everything's
you can go back
on there
and listen to them.
Yep, you can always access them. So thank you as always to our patrons who support us in that manner. We love you guys. We love all of you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, patrons. So to be fair, I think some of our early episodes are just, the audio quality is not the best.
It is what it is.
It's a shame. It was almost like we should check out the ones which are really bad and say, shall we just do these films again?
Shall we George Lucas them?
Yeah. Digitalise them.
Yeah.
Get
just
robots.
Insert Jabba the Hutt into a scene for no reason.
As a co-host.
Before Bill Murray, it was World of the Strange with Jabba the Hutt. So thank you to our patrons. Thank you to Dante, to Don Collier, Matthew Godley, Jamie Jenkins, Kevin S. Fife, Sarah Kay, Rachel, RJ McCready, and Lex Boo, aka Holly. Thank you, Holly,
thank you so
again.
much.
And thank you, everybody. And just wanted to mention, actually, while we're mentioning our patrons, that Jamie, we're sad to hear that you've decided to retire from podcasting. But
I didn't know this.
Yeah, Jamie announced a few days ago.
Oh, no.
Life gets in the way, and that's that, really.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it does.
She said she may pop up on the odd show here and there, but essentially she's retired from it. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be doing this.
We wouldn't be podcasting. There'd be actually, I'm not going to get into it again, the whole story. Actually, there'd be a lot of people who aren't connected together now who are doing podcasts.
Yep.
Because I was making music for someone and they said, talk to this person, and it had to be Jamie.
So I did want to mention Jamie.
Jamie, though, if you ever, because it's like filmmakers. I'm not going to do one more movie like Quentin Tarantino. So I don't understand how you can do that. I'm not going to do another movie. Then it's like, I've got to do a movie. If you ever feel like you've really got to do another podcast, or just like not a podcast, but just get your voice on there and talk about film, give us a shout.
Yeah.
For your patron, if you want to talk about a film you really like or you want to talk about, we could do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Well, because that's why I wanted to mention it, because Jamie is very special, and she's always been a huge supporter of us as well.
Yeah.
She messages us, and says nice, encouraging things.
No, I love Jamie to bits.
We do. And we both appeared on her show, liking it a while back as well. That was good fun.
Well, I'm still a big fan of Devour the Podcast.
Yeah, it's a great show. So yeah, that's it. So that's all our patrons.
I'll do another episode of Devour the Podcast.
You can entice her back.
I used to really enjoy that.
She's made her statement.
It's funny because that was back in the day when I first got into podcasting. I was only a couple of podcasts I listened, well, still kind of do, but listened to, and it was a lot more collective. It wasn't such everybody. It was a huge thing as it is now. So it was really nice having that. And I had Devour the Podcast with David saying, "Fuck this movie."
Yeah, fuck this movie. Fuck this movie hard. I think that was the quote, isn't it?
I used to love that show. I don't even know if David listened to us.
Also wanted to mention, I know he did.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. He's not as active social media as he used to be, which is fine.
I don't see things like I didn't see Jamie saying this, so I do apologise, Jamie. Otherwise, I would have commented, but I don't see stuff.
And I also wanted to mention, because we don't often, if you do get a chance to rate us or leave a review.
At a P. Diddy party. Just don't see stuff.
Don't see stuff. Just look away. Pass me the baby oil.
I don't see anything.
If you do get a chance to rate the show or leave a review anywhere you listen to it and you can, we'd appreciate that too. But that's enough from me yabbering on, and enough from you labbering on. It's time for us to go back under the stones.
I've got now
to the next episode.
I've got now 3 days, which is plenty of time to get this flat cleaned, tidy. The flat is now clean, is what I'm going to say once it's done.
This flat is clean.
And move into my new place. But every time I move into a new place, I'm like, is it going to be haunted? Come on, just the once, please give it to me. So let's see. So next time, listeners, I'll be in a new audio location. But I'm on the middle floor, so I've got below me and above me. So
you're a sandwich. You're the meat in a sandwich. Then.
Hopefully when I'm DJing, I'm not too loud down below, and hopefully people above me are not going to be too loud when I'm podcasting.
So, talking of haunted,
and next to a road as well, obviously with a window, but that's where it's got to be. I've discovered.
Talking of haunted, I've already mentioned that Jack's been seeing something peep around the corner.
Oh yeah.
The other night, Alice saw it.
What is it?
I was sat where I am. Alice was sat over to my right.
This thing just keeps looking round,
and she literally went, "Oh God!" And I went, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" She went, "I've just seen the peeper peep round the door at me." And I said, "Are you fucking kidding?" Because I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen the shadow man in the hallway.
So you need to keep that door open with a camera.
No way.
Get a camera though.
No way. I got to go up the stairs later with the lights out.
This is the best bit. Whenever you're doing that, it's when you're just getting to the end, when you're running along and you don't look. Everybody does it. I know all of you do this, and you just you're going up the stairs or you're shutting the door. It's just at the last point you're about to shut your bedroom door where you're safe. It's that last 3 seconds. You think that the hand's going to get you
come
from
around the door.
No, from behind you. It's just going to grab you at that last moment. So you go, and you run up the steps.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
I gave that to you.
So it's a good night from Abertac Under the Stones, coming out to pull the blood out of your asshole.
Oh, I was hoping that didn't happen in the movie. Glad it didn't. It's a good night from The Vampire, and it's a good night from what's the other thing?
It's a good night from lots of sheets floating down the road, waving at you.
Ghosties, wasn't it?
Ghosties.
Little ghosties. Wee ghosties.
And it's a good night from all you one-hit wonders out there who are summoning demons and sacrificing virgins so that you can have P. Diddy feature on your next song.
Excellent. What a shit rapper as well. Right, everybody.
Careful, he might put a hit out on us. Like KPD, get him.
The last thing he's concerned about right now is 2 horror podcasters saying he's a shit rapper.
Yeah, everyone's saying shit about him, though, aren't they?
But he's a shit rapper, so yeah. Anyway, it always has been. There's no difference.
Yeah, he's always been really shit. Especially because his best mate is considered one of the top 3 rappers of all time.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah.
Wow, don't even bother.
Anyway, just chuck Naz in there. Naz will kick everyone's ass.
KRS-One, block your toilet.
Let's get out of here.
Just like KRS-One says, remember guys, flush it twice.
Word to your mother.
Word to your mother.
Thank you for listening to the podcast on Haunted Hill. We will be back again real soon.